Good morning, everybody, and happy Monday. Been in here chatting for quite a while. Who did I miss? I see I miss Cool Gamer, Pointer Lover, Tiny Tumbleweed. What a name. Love it. Circle Box made it in. Hello, Sandra Stevens. Hope everyone had a great weekend. Shep is in the house. Shep is in. Hang on, I got to fix something on Shep's end. Okay, Nicole made it in. Tiff is here. Nicole is here. Amy's here. Mendel, good morning. We have some new names in here. Yes, we do. That Dateline on Friday was wild. That's how I roll around here. The wildest thing I had going on all weekend was my husband cooking out in Dateline NBC. But whoa, it was wild. Army Mom of Two said, will this be televised? Well, we're going to have to be winging this, okay? Because I hear yes and I hear no. Lone Wolf just gifted 5 Crime Lines and Lies memberships. Coming hot out of the box, Carol Claus gifted 5 Crime Lines and Lies memberships too. She left OJ some bacon money. We are right on track. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, that was crazy. And here's the thing. When it's Dateline, I tend to believe them. So we'll get to that in a minute. Snazzy said only tweets allowed. So that's fine. We'll just be reading tweets, won't we? We're just going to chat away. Busted Flush said Court TV won the right to be the only media in the courtroom. They will show it when it's all over today. Isn't that a beach? Let's take a second to tell our good friend Shep happy birthday. His birthday was yesterday. We didn't have a show on Sunday, so we're going to do it now. Happy birthday, my dear friend. Happy birthday. Army Mama 2 said, I love your channel. I watch, but never really comment. We don't bite around here. You can come on panel. Come on panel. You can chat away. Everyone here is super, super cool. Best chat on YouTube. 100%. Hands down. Shep, what did you do for your birthday? Shep said, you're going to make me cry at work. No, we don't want Shep to cry. We don't want Shep to cry. Kelly says, we don't bite unless we're asked. Exactly. Don't make us bite. All right, let's get to it because they said that there's going to be live tweets from inside the courtroom. Now, mind you, this is going to be in an hour, but we're going to get up to date on other things. We're going to talk about the indictment. We're going to talk about the Dateline. Of course, we've got comments to go through. Who watched the Dateline on Friday or sometime over the weekend? Snazzy and Nani only nibble. See right there. Right there. Who watched the Dateline? Nana did. I think it's freaking wild. So the K-bar that they have been trying to search, which God only knows where it is. My guess is it's somewhere in the Rocky Mountains. Turns out he bought it from Amazon. Well, Amazon sells everything, don't they? Even murder weapons. His sister had her eye on him, and how the sister put together him being involved with this horrific murder. Just had some music blaring in my ear. Um, his dad wasn't onto him, but the sister. Hello, Alex. And there was other things that went on in it. JM said you went underwater. Can you hear me now? Pat K said, way to go, siblings. Yeah, way to go. They called it out. Alex says, do you believe these sources? So curious. The only reason I do is because the people at Dateline, they dot the I's and they cross the T's. They're not going to give up a source, but they know what they're talking about. Without them, Pam Hupp wouldn't be in jail. They've done some miraculous work in so many other cases. So before I get to the show, we have some new names in here. Let's take a second to tell everyone hi. Welcome your neighbor. You know the routine. Hi, hello, howdy. Indy said, did both sisters lose their jobs? Well, I can't see that the one sister lost her job because she was basically a horror movie actress. Horror, not whore. Horror movie actress. So, when you can't get a job acting, you can't really say you lost your job, if you know what I mean. Now, the other sister being a school counselor, I need to know more about that. Don't really want to get into their business so much, if you know what I mean. If they did, that's pretty crappy, in my opinion. Let's get to the comments, and we're going to jump in head first. Sergeant Friday said the idea she can be ignored and it's her right to be left alone. It's not a fact, it's a judgmental call the court makes. Or like in this case, the individual agreed to a meeting. Now, what we're talking about here is Bethany not wanting to speak to the defense. Sergeant Friday said, also, let's use common sense. The defense is using information the prosecutor gave them on Bethany. They are not fishing, and if they had any skill at all, already know her answers to the important questions they want to ask. The PCA on its own is sufficient for an arrest warrant, but strong enough for a conviction? Not even close. Now, I agree with this comment because there's no way they would go on a fishing expedition wanting to talk to Bethany unless they already knew the answers. You see, they're not going to mess with the state money too much unless they know what they're looking for. I think this request with Bethany, and it's just my opinion, is the reason we had the grand jury get involved. That's what I think. Lisa Wilson says, it really bothers me that it was said that Bethany slept through 4 people being murdered and that Dylan did nothing while she heard crying, a commotion going on with the dog, and Kaylee and a ruckus on the same floor that she was on, and saw a stranger walk by her room 3 times. Yet she didn't call 911 because she was too scared. So let me get this straight. She was too afraid to call 911, but she was able to lie down in her bed and just go to sleep. then sleep for 8 hours. Then, when she and Bethany finally woke up, they called their friends instead of 911. If anyone can make just one thing I've mentioned make sense, I want to hear it. We're in the same boat, Lisa, because I don't understand it either. I know people come after me and they're like, you're victim shaming. No, I'm trying to understand. Or they're like, it's survivor's guilt. How do you know you survived anything without getting the authorities involved? And I think, again, just my opinion, that the roommates are a big reason they didn't want the preliminary hearing. I really do. Because the roommates can be chopped up by these defense attorneys. They are not your everyday assigned attorneys. They're really not. The 8 hours is always going to puzzle us. And until trial, because we won't have a prelim now, until trial, all we're going to have is our speculation, to be quite honest. Almost read innocent because I was reading a comment. Snazzy on the screen, thank you for the super sticker, says, who thinks BK will plead guilty? Not I. No, I do not. Snazzy again, thank you for the super sticker, says Judge, which I'm loving. I'm loving the new name, Judge, needs to drop this gag order. Because Snazzy and me and all of you, we want to hear the details. We want people to be able to talk. Come on. How can you reasonably explain the 8 hours it took to call? I go back to the public information officer for Idaho that said they could be the key to the whole thing. They're the key to the whole thing. They're cooperating. He was asked, are they witnesses? He goes, they're cooperating. They're cooperating. Running Buck says, if those victim roommates were college boys, those kid gloves would have come off a long, long time ago. By law enforcement, the general public, the families, etc. A true double standard. I love this comment. I know Fine Art on Fire has said this many times. If Bethany and Dylan were two 40-year-old dudes, people would not be screaming victim shaming. They would not be screaming survivor's guilt. They'd be saying, what the hell were you doing for 8 hours? It doesn't make any sense. Sassy said, I want all the deets. Me too, my friend. Me too. All right, let's get up to date before we start talking about the Dateline from Friday.
Good morning, and thanks so much for joining us here on Up with Krim. I'm Channing Curtis. In less than 3 hours, the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students will be back in court. This morning, our Tim Pham is joining us live from the Latah County Courthouse ahead of that hearing. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Channing. Yes, this arraignment happening a lot earlier than we thought. Originally, it was scheduled for late June, and now it is happening today, as you mentioned, at 9 a.m. You can see outside of the Latah County Courthouse, there's a lot of attention gathered here from both local and national media this morning. This case obviously captured the attention of the nation as police search for the person who killed 4 students at the University of Idaho. That's who this is all about, really. When we think about, we're talking about is seeking justice for the victims. While a large part of today will focus on what's happening in the courtroom, it is all about that first step in seeking justice for the victims. So let's get you to 3 things you need to know about what's happening today. As we mentioned, that arraignment is happening at 9 a.m. The suspect, Bryan Kohberger, is expected to enter a plea for 5 charges against him. Number 2, those 5 charges include 4 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of burglary. And number 3, if he pleads not guilty, the court will schedule the case for trial. Right now, there's no indication of when that trial may be. We will only know that after today's appearance. So right now, there's also a gag order in place that prevents law enforcement, attorneys, and the victim's family from speaking publicly about the case. Last week, Creme 2 spoke with the attorney for the family of Kaylee Consalves, and he told us that he's still in the dark about what this whole gag order means.
The conundrum is that he's being arraigned at 9 o'clock on Monday.
They have a new picture of Shannon. He's grown his hair out. Look at that. He's trying to get like a Hollywood look about him, like a Bradley Cooper in Star is Born. He's got a new hairdo.
And then we have a scheduling conference on the non-dissemination gag order at 10 o'clock. But the issue with that is that as soon as he's arraigned, Judge Marshall's off the case and it goes to Judge. Why are we having a scheduling conference with Judge Marshall?
Well, Gray tells us that Judge John Judge is set to take over the case, as you heard. Gray filed a motion to remove the gag order. In those court documents, he claimed he and the Consalves family should be allowed to speak publicly about the case under the First Amendment. A lot has happened in this case in the last 6 months.
Let's take a poll. Do you think that the people involved in this case, and I mean the victims' families, the prosecution, the defense, the detectives that investigated, do you think they should be able to speak out? Do you think it would hurt the case or not? Or should the evidence speak for itself?
Since Kohberger allegedly killed those 4 students. Our Nicole Hernandez has been following this closely for the last 6 months. She continues our team coverage now with a look back of the events leading up to this point.
I'm at the King Road house where police found those 4 University of Idaho students back in November. 30 minutes ago, we went over a timeline of events from the murders to Kohberger's arrest. Now I want to break down what's happened since the arrest to today, the arraignment. We left off at December 30th, police arresting Bryan Kohberger in his family home in Pennsylvania. Just hours later, law enforcement served a search warrant on Kohberger's Pullman apartment. On January 3rd, Kohberger waived his extradition hearing so police could bring him back to Idaho. The next day, January 4th, police fly Kohberger across the country. He lands at the Pullman-Moscow Regional Airport, and officers take him to the Latah County Jail. Less than 24 hours later, on January 5th, the courts released the arrest affidavit. We learn a surviving roommate saw a man in the house the night of the murders, that Kohberger's phone pinged near the King Road house 12 times in the months leading up to November 13th.
Okay, let's talk about that. His phone pinged 12 times in the months leading up. Some people say that is not stalking. Bryan said the shopping's better over there. I think he's talking about people. Lone Wolf, thank you for the super sticker, said the prosecution said in court documents that the trace DNA isn't going to be used, but it was used to arrest him. And that's actually common. What they use to arrest you with is not what they use to convict you with. But Lone Wolf wants to know if the trace DNA could be linked to his sister. I don't know. I don't know.
and that DNA evidence connected Kohberger to the murders. Right after we saw that arrest affidavit, Kohberger appeared in court for the first time. On January 12th, Kohberger was in court again. At that hearing, the judge set the preliminary trial for the end of June. Then, not many updates until this past week when we learned about the grand jury indictment. That, of course, brings us to the arraignment this morning. Both Tim and I will be at that arraignment at 9 o'clock, and we'll make sure to bring you the updates on Crime 2 News at noon. In Moscow, Nicole Hernandez, Crime 2 News.
Nicole, thank you for that. And again, the suspect's arraignment is scheduled to start at 9 a.m. this morning. Crime 2 will be in the courtroom, but the court is not allowing us to stream it. But we will have a live report right after that arraignment is over to let you know what happened. In the meantime, for the very latest on this case, you can text the word Moscow to the number 509-448-2000, and we will send a link right to your phone.
Okay. Okay. Well, we're going to find out, but I'm not going to be in the courtroom, obviously. That is so irritating. I mean, this should be a public arraignment. The public has a right to see these things. Liza said, no cameras during the arrest, not buying it. FBI with no video. Come on. Of course they have video. Of course they had cameras. They had body cam and everything like that. But like we've seen in many, many other cases and trials, we just most recently watched the trial of Letitia Stout. And people were screaming for years, how come there's no body cam? How come there's none of this? How come there's none of that? Well, there was, but they saved it for trial. They're more concerned about a conviction than showing the public what they know. We'll see all that in trial. But I think when you open up the courthouse, then we should be able to see it. That's just me, though. That's just me. All right, let's get to the Dateline episode. Who watched Dateline on Friday? And I can't show Dateline because they will come on me like 1,000 hammers. Hello, JC. Hang on, I missed a comment. Give me a second. Christina said they admitted no body cam from Pennsylvania. Do we really believe that? Because since when does the FBI not have surveillance? Since when do SWAT teams not have surveillance? I read that myself, and I'm really not 100%. I just don't know about that. Because I've seen so many other cases where they're like, no, there's no video. There's no video. And then you get to the trial and it's like, well, lo and behold, somebody did load the camera that day. So I don't know. I really don't. Absolutely crazy.
The man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students late last year will appear in court tomorrow after he was indicted by a grand jury last week. NBC's Dana Griffin has new revelations in the case and what the suspect will face in court tomorrow.
The Gonzalez family will once again come face to face with the man accused of killing their daughter Kaylee Gonzalez and friends Madison Mogan, Xana Kernodle, and Ethan Chapin on November 13th, 2022.
Okay, quick question. I understand that the Chapin family is getting some blowback. They're getting some hell sent their way because they have said they will not be going to any of these hearings. Personally, I'm not going to judge them for that. That is their own personal decision. It could be too painful. They don't want their children involved in it. I don't know. We know Kaylee's family is going to be there. We have not heard about Xana's family or Madison's family. But do you judge Ethan's family for not going and just trusting the system? Mary Glick, where's Nate Eaton? That's my question too. And how come he hasn't done a damn thing with Monkey's case? He must be worn out from the Vallow situation. Pointer said that's their decision to make. Dolly Baby said, who are we to judge?
Well, I think everyone, every victim in every case wants the case to move along. The family wants to move along. They want to get a conviction and move past this.
The indictment, 4 counts of first-degree murder and burglary, comes 6 months after the disturbing murders inside this off-campus rental home. According to court documents, Bryan Kohberger's DNA was found on a knife sheath at the crime scene. And in a recent Dateline exclusive, a source with inside knowledge of the investigation claims several months before the murders, Kohberger went on Amazon to buy a K-bar knife and sheath. Greg Cooper is a retired FBI profiler weighing in on the case.
He's been thinking about committing crimes for a long time.
With that knife?
Absolutely. He has to become familiar with it, feel at ease with it.
Hello.
Investigators say Kohberger's white Hyundai Elantra was near the home the night of killings. And one of the 2 surviving roommates telling police she saw a man inside the home with bushy eyebrows wearing a mask and black clothing. More than a month later, with no arrest, suspicions were brewing within the Kohberger family, according to Dateline. A source said several family members searched his car for evidence, but by then, police had seen him cleaning his car with bleach. On Monday, Kohberger will likely enter a plea of not guilty.
He'll hear information about the charges against him. We could be in and out in under 15 minutes.
If found guilty, Kohberger could be sentenced to death. Last weekend at the University of Idaho graduation, Kaylee and Maddie received posthumous degrees. Their families now wait to receive justice. Dana Griffin, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Dana, thank you very much.
That's a lot of information that Dateline put out there. I tell you what, they put News Nation to shame. So, Bushy's sister noticed weird behavior with him. Let's not forget about him with the baggies putting his trash in it. He's wearing gloves at the table while in his Christmas jammies. He had cleaned the car with bleach, but the family went through it because for some reason they were alerted that he might be involved with this. I would like to know more about that. Liza said 7 weeks after the murders, he was cleaning with bleach a car, but no video. No, his family didn't video him cleaning the car. Papa Rogers, we have talked about this many times. Papa Rogers, they're saying, is Bushy. Is Bushy. K-bar in the sheath, Amazon. Two IDs found in latex glove box at his parents', but neither were from the victims on King Road. Who the hell's IDs did he have? I would love to know. Let me put the link up real quick. I know Avi's in chat. She was going to come up. Hello, Lisa Wilson. I just read your comment earlier. Yeah, that Papa Rogers thing was really, really weird to me. And how did he pick the name? the profile picture, everything, because he was actively speaking with people that were talking about case. It's creepy. It is creepy. We got Bonnie coming in. Hang on. Her device is trying to connect. Bonnie, try it again. Try it again. So, what do you guys think about what the profile that he had a dress rehearsal before at some point? I wouldn't doubt it at all. Because it's never their first rodeo. It's never their first rodeo when they do something like this. Ever. True Crime with Shannon said the Papa thing is nuts. Yeah. He also had stalked other people. Nucky said this was not his first rodeo. Nope, not at all. Set up cams in another woman's house. It's just odd to me that the family was on to him, his own family, but not his dad. What did they talk about all the way from Washington to Pennsylvania? He's not a young kid. I've never understood his dad flying all the way out there to drive back with him. Why not just fly Bushy home? I've never understood that. I mean, finances maybe. I don't know. Plane tickets are expensive. But so's wear and tear on a car and fuel all the way across the country. Hang on, I'll put the link up again. Then we have the 51 terabytes of digital discovery that was given to the defense. See, that probable cause affidavit is just the tip of the iceberg. Let's look at this.
You know what? I don't even know where to start. But I'm going to ask someone who knows a lot about this, Dave Ehrenberg, who's a state attorney for Palm Beach County and former assistant attorney general. Dave, I feel like in the last decade or two, the document dumps are getting overwhelming. Like mental health days are going to be needed to get through this. And how many people, like seriously, how many sets of eyeballs and eyeball hours will it take to get through all that on both sides? Because prosecutors have to know what's in it. Defense has to know what's in it.
Yeah, actually, you've heard of prosecutors getting sanctioned for withholding evidence, but you've never heard of a prosecutor getting sanctioned for providing too much evidence. And that's why prosecutors will err on the side of disclosure. And that means that defense counsel and their investigators are going to have to look through the hours and hours of video, but generally they know the approximate areas they're going to look through.
Well, he has enough attorneys and they have enough paralegals and they have enough secretaries to go through all of it, and they've got time. They've got time. And I agree with all of you. He wanted to get that car out of Washington. What's going on, Avi? You're muted.
Hi, how are you?
Good. You texted me on Friday about the Dateline. What stuck out the most to you?
Okay, so for me, I think that what stuck out the most was, and I think you were talking about this, how he became friends with, I guess, a colleague or another student. And she came home to her apartment. It was all messed up, and she called him because they were friends, and he installed the security cameras, and they thought maybe that he might have had access to her cameras and was maybe watching her. I thought that was really interesting. Are you still there?
Yeah. Oh, me too.
Oh. And oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was letting you finish because I think it's interesting too. It really got me when it said that his sister was on to him.
I thought that was interesting too. And they also believed that he was possibly in the house at one point in time. Remember when the cops came there and none of the people that lived there they weren't even home, but there was just like a party going on, and they thought that maybe Kohberger had been in the house before. I thought that was really interesting.
What about welcome, Circle Box?
Thank you for having me on.
Anytime, my friend. We go way back.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Glad you're up here. What about the hay bar and the sheath being bought from Amazon? Did that surprise anybody, or was that kind of a not big deal thing?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of shocking to me, to be honest, that you would buy something like that off the internet when you could like go to Walmart somewhere local and buy a similar knife. But he don't seem very social. But from what I kind of understand, the guys are actually very smart, I guess book wise and whatnot, but I don't know. This case is, all over the place. I don't know. What do y'all think? Were you shocked?
I think it's weird that he bought it from Amazon. He's a criminology major. He what paper trails are. He follow the money. He that everyone that buys from Amazon, you don't give the Amazon driver cash when they meet you at the street corner. They go to the house or your mail. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Really weird. So if he's been looking at doing this 7 months prior, the strangest thing you could do is buy the weapon from the internet. He could
I agree.
He could put on a blonde wig and walk into a store with some cash and buy it, walk out, cash.
Yeah.
But I think that's what his problem was, is that he thought that he was so much smarter than everybody that he really didn't think that he would get caught. That's what I think.
I was getting ready to say the same thing. He thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. Have they said why he chose that house? Or did I miss that part? If they put that out there?
They haven't said anything. Do I sound okay, guys? Because I know some people say I sound like a robot, and then they say I don't, or like it's kind of in and out. So you let me know. Well, he went straight to Madison's room. And the only thing that we can speculate is that somehow he was enamored with her by eating at the Mad Greek restaurant. He had her picture saved on his phone. And I think Kaylee went to check on her because she heard something, and he killed Kaylee. Then he came down the stairs and he came across Ethan and Xana. Hello, Amanda.
Hello. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I had a thought about those IDs, those ID cards that were found. I'm curious and wondering if maybe he took those because those two females he was planning on doing the same thing to, unaliving them.
What you think he took the IDs as like a trophy of possibly getting in their house and getting away with that? You think that's part of it?
The IDs, from what I heard, don't even belong to none of the people that he unalived.
Yeah.
There were two other female.
But do you think he...
So I think he took them. I think he took them as a souvenir, but I also think he took them because he was planning on unaliving them also. I think he was planning on becoming a serial killer. That's
Yeah,
what I
I
think he
got
was planning on being.
I got that vibe from him as well. Do you think did they say where those IDs were? I would assume they were in those
No.
girls' houses.
Yeah,
This
that's what
isn't the
I'm
first.
saying.
It's not the first time he's broken a house. Obviously, he's obviously pretty good at it. So I'm thinking he
Uh-huh.
went in their house and took that as like a trophy. And like you said, he was probably planning on going back to, Endel at some point.
Well, those
But then,
IDs did not, those two IDs they found, from what I heard, did not belong to none Bethany. It didn't belong to Dylan. It didn't belong to Zane. It was two other females
Yeah, that don't even live there.
outside of it. Nobody even knew. I
Which
think
state?
he took those.
Which
They
state? I'm sorry.
they didn't. They haven't stated who they are, who they belong to, or nothing yet. But in my opinion, I feel like he wanted to become a serial killer, and I believe he was going to go after those other two girls, the IDs he stole.
But are there any other cases in any other states where a situation like that happened to them and they don't have a person?
They're looking at missing
They
people
may. I don't know. There may be other
Carol.
cases, but as far as yes,
Sorry about that. You just jogged my memory about somebody was talking about breaking in. There was a car broken into, and it wasn't. I hope I've got this right. And wasn't the girl's underwears placed in the glove box or something
yes,
like that?
yes,
Yeah, I remember that.
yes.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm
Okay.
thinking it could have possibly been one of them. It could have been one of their IDs, and
You
he wants to become. I think he was going to go probably unalive that person.
So you think he was doing like dry runs?
I do.
Yes,
I do.
I do.
I think he had some dress rehearsals. Snazzy, thank you for the super sticker. Said, I wonder if one of the IDs belongs to the girl on Dateline that had her car broken to. That's what makes
Oh, bingo.
me.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
Yeah. When she brought up the IDs, that's why I wanted to come up, because I was thinking, he was taking them IDs. He wanted to know their address so he could go to their home and unalive them also.
Yeah.
So you believe he didn't actually break in the house? You think he could have got it while they're at a restaurant or out and about, or it was in their car?
I think he picks who he wants to unalive.
Wow.
That's my opinion.
I was thinking he possibly broke in their house and got the ID that way.
No,
but what you're saying makes a little more sense.
Yeah, he's probably breaking into vehicles. He probably saw them somewhere and thought, okay, I want to get this one.
But you have to admit, though, getting the person's ID would be actually a hard thing to do, because I'd say at least 90-95% of people have that with them at all times. Besides when they're in their house, they set it down. So how he would get it from like a vehicle? I don't think a girl would leave her purse in their vehicle while they went, into a store or whatever. I'm
Sometimes
kind of
women
confused
leave
on
their
this.
ID or something in there. Sometimes they leave stuff, personal stuff. They lock it up.
And some people do. Some people leave stuff in their car. I will never understand it, but they do. And it's common with college kids. Now, Sarah had a good point. He was an assistant professor at WSU. It could have been a couple of the students there. He could have been looking at students there as well. Bama Smith, thank you for the super sticker, said panties were shoved in the door panel. So we obviously know he was in someone's house.
Yep.
Yeah. So he was obviously doing dry runs, and he was obviously, he was obviously good at it. Sadly.
Yep. That's when Brooks said that about the IDs, that went through my mind.
Well,
Now,
could it have been a?
I don't
Oops,
know.
sorry.
Let me ask everybody who leaves their ID anywhere behind. I don't leave mine in
Not me.
my car.
Well, no.
Mine's in my purse, and my purse. Anytime I leave the house, my purse is with me.
Yeah, person named No FM Way said my ID and whole wallet is in my unlocked car in my driveway right now. So that's one person. I am curious about that.
Mm-hmm.
Press 1.
I think he had a plan.
Yeah, press 1 in the chat if you leave your ID in your car when you're at home or you go to the store, or press 2 if you always have it with you, so we can get a count on this. Because I'm actually now interested in that, because I would assume all girls would keep that with them, but I guess they could leave the ID in their purse and just take their little wallet with them with their money and whatnot.
A couple people said they leave theirs in their glove box all the time.
Wow. Okay, 2 people.
You know what? That would be smart not to do that no more, because you don't know what kind of weirdos are out there and what they'll do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay. So the voting looks like majority of people do keep the IDs in there with them at all times. There's actually surprisingly quite a few people that's saying yes. They're pressing 1 saying yes. They leave their ID in their car. So, that's actually kind of shocking to me.
Well, some people don't carry a purse or wallet. They just keep it in their car, because if you're going to spend money, you're going to have it with you in the car. And, you know, you have car insurance and you have a car alarm and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. But I never actually honestly thought people.
Sarah said, "You're assuming all women carry purses." No, I'm not. I said that. That's
I said that.
No, she's not.
I think. Oh man.
Look
Sorry,
what you
ladies.
started, dude.
Sorry,
Look
ladies.
what you started.
Yeah, I'm not going to go back.
You know what I'm saying?
With who has a wallet, who carries a wallet, who carries who has a backpack, who keeps everything in their gym bag. That's not the conversation here.
These ladies are going to kill me when I go back to the chat.
Yeah, they're going to hit you with a purse.
They'll carry a purse when they see me.
They're going to hit you with it. Oh, you think we only carry purses, dude?
Yeah.
Damn you, Circle Box. This is the reason we haven't seen you since the Kylie Rodney case.
Yeah, no.
But yeah, I think he was wanting to steal as many IDs as he could so he'd know their address to go unalive them. That's my opinion.
I think so too. Snazzy said lots of idiots leave school or work IDs on lanyards on the rearview mirror. It's crazy. And that's the truth. I used to do it years ago, but I don't do it anymore. Ryan Christie, thank you for the super sticker, said my ID is in my phone case always, so I don't have to carry my purse. And if I'm just running out to get kids or something. And a lot of people have like a phone wallet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have their credit card, they have their ID, and it's all tucked in with their phone, so they have one thing to grab.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
And some smokers out there, you know, those little smoke cases that you can undo. Some of them put it in there.
Yeah, true.
Mm-hmm.
Not me, because you never know when I need 500 tubes of chapstick. A sewing kit. You never know when I need an extra comb. You know, I just go down to the Quick Trip. God only knows what I need when I leave. No, I'm
may need to go out and buy another purse.
I'm telling you, it's a wonder I don't have 10 with me.
We're not going to
I
let
just
you
wear-
live that down. You know that, right?
Got an old Aquafina bottle in it. I've got wedding invitations, mail I haven't opened. Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I got my White Claws in there.
I've got rolls of quarters for coin pusher because you never know when I'm going to come across a coin pusher machine.
Oh boy.
And if I can't find something, I go back through all my old purses and I'm like, oh, I know it's in here somewhere. Some dried up hot nail polish the other day, and I'm like, oh, cool, that's awesome.
Hell, for all we know, BK probably got Kathy's smoked ring underwear and put them in that damn door.
Would that not be the shit if that's not the underwear he had?
That's what I'm saying. Good gosh.
He married Lando. He said, I hate forgetting chapstick and I have to buy a new one. Exactly. So you get into the store.
Hell, for all we know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Brooks.
No, you get to the store and you're like, damn it, I can't find my chapstick. And next thing you know, you got a fucking 5-pack and it goes into the purse.
Hell, for all we know, BK could have been carrying a mail purse and had her undies in there. You think he's going to put her underwear in his damn wallet? No, he got his man purse, put her nasty ass drawers in there, and took it to the damn car.
You assuming us guys carry a man purse? You assuming us guys carry a man purse? Can we?
Yes, now I'm assuming.
Can we move past the purses?
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to be made fun of because I carry a fanny pack. I'm sick of the purses. I like to have both of my arms free.
So does my daughter-in-law. She can't stand having a purse on her shoulder.
I can't stand it.
Mine up one day and she was like, "Are you lifting weights? What the hell all is in here?" I'm like, "Oh, I don't know, a can of corn. I don't know. Things I might need."
She may have a big old pack of wieners in there, taking them to Dawn.
You never know. A lot of
you never know.
You only go 2 blocks away.
They're not just going to sit there second by second. They're going to have techniques where they can fast forward to the most important times because they'll know when the crucial times are on the videos. Now, keep in mind, when you ask for a phone record, like if you're going to ask a phone company for the records of Kohberger's phone, that alone could be about 12,000 pages. And then you multiply that by all the different phones that were being seized, and you can already come out to 1 million pages just like that. So, this is why, prosecutors have so many documents to turn over because the last thing they want is for sanctions because they didn't turn over enough.
So we see Bill Taylor, the DA, and we see, Ann Taylor over on the other side, or Bill Thompson, I should say. And I imagine they've got a small staff because this is taxpayers' dime for both defense and prosecution. But how many staff will it take to be able to get through that? Because it could be that needle in a haystack that either nails him into the coffin or frees him. And both sides need to find that needle if it's there. How many people do they usually get?
Well, if the defense counsel think that they need more people, they go to the judge and they'll get an additional appropriation, more money to go hire more people, because the court will always try to ensure that a defendant's Sixth Amendment right is being honored, a right to a fair trial. So defense counsel will get more appropriations. They're already getting more lawyers than originally. And I think actually this is one reason why the defense lawyers for Kohberger waived their right to a speedy trial. That way they can have more time to look over all of the evidence. So they're prepared for this. I don't think necessarily are prepared for 51 terabytes, but this is a huge case involving multi-level a law enforcement agency, state, local, and federal. So they all have their discovery they had to turn over to the defense.
Man, that is, I mean, if you had 200 people on staff, it would still be a massive job. I truly don't know how they're going to get through it all and still have the right eyes on it on both sides, like I said. Dave, thank you. It's always good to have you on. Dave Ehrenberg, you're the best.
Thank you. You bet. You bet. People are talking about finding money in their purse. Brian Enton is tweeting right now. He said the families are arriving to the courthouse. Olivia brought her baby. Kaylee's sister brought her baby. She named her baby after Kaylee and Madison, which I think is just absolutely adorable that she did that. So it's going to start here in about 3 minutes. We lost Amanda. She'll reconnect.
And I was trying to fathom 51 terabytes. I've been doing live streaming work here at WFLA for the last, approximately the last 5 years. I've done, I don't know how many streams I've done, thousands, maybe 1,000 or more, maybe a couple thousand. I don't know. I've downloaded endless amounts of videos, press conference, and I store it all here on WFLA servers. And in 5 years of doing live streaming work, I think that we've accumulated somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 to 6 terabytes of information. 5 to 6 terabytes. With all the coverage that we do here, I think it's about 5 to 6 terabytes. So 51 terabytes of information. Time is now 8:58 Pacific, 11:58 Eastern time. Jennifer Koffendorfer, JB Buno here with you live on stream. I'm paying attention to the feeds, and we're, of course, going to share the feed once it comes down from the pool camera crew. So again, reminder, as people are now filing in, everyone's now, okay, the time is now 9 Pacific, noon Eastern. Where is the live stream we want to see inside the courtroom? It is legally not allowed. Let's just quickly talk about that, Jennifer, because some cases don't allow streaming. Some cases don't allow video access at all. You know, thinking about the Lori Vallow case and some of the oddities there as well. I'm always going to be on the side of transparency. I always want to be inside the courtroom. I always think that there's also an element that people don't understand where I'm giving an example. There are people that want to be in the courtroom that sometimes just it's not logical for them to do so, whether or not they're in a different state or whether or not they're in a different Zoom has come a long way as well as far as granting people that need to be in a courtroom access. But what do you make of the fact that we can't stream it live, but we can play it back the moment that it's done? I mean, we're still going to see everything that happens inside the courtroom. We're just going to see it in essence, on a delay.
Well, I think this judge is very, he's reserved in terms of wanting this information out. So let me give you an example. What happens if there's an incident? What happens if there's an incident in there? Mm-hmm. Then this way, because it's on the delay, he cannot have that incident be released. So I think that that's the reason, not that anybody is expecting an incident, but he's being cautious. He does not want this case exploited any more than it may be. And so he's going to be cautious as to what is out and when.
And that leads us to the gag order. So the gag order done in an effort to protect the process, to protect the witnesses, but there have been some groups out there representing the media that believe that it is too strict of a gag order. That there's going to be a hearing today on the gag order after the arraignment itself. A media coalition has come forward and collectively arguing that this is too strict, that there's a violation of First Amendment rights, that the media coalition took it to the Idaho Supreme Court, who said, actually, no, you have to state your case at a lower court first before we can evaluate whether or not the court follows Idaho state constitutional law. So that also too has an enormous impact publicly on the trial going forward, Jennifer, as to whether or not the gag order is going to stand. But I've been talking with a lot of friends of mine in the legal community, and there is this belief, this notion that they have that the gag order has stood up until this point, and it is going to stand going forward. Do you agree?
I agree, and I think we're already seeing it. These hearings aren't going to be live streamed. That tells me he's conservative. He's sealed the witnesses that spoke at the grand jury. This speaks to me as far as his general conservative nature concerning protecting this case, protecting the facts, protecting the witnesses. And because of that, I think he will continue to keep that order in place. And recall too, the media asked for an extension, a continuance, I should say, a continuance. And he said, no, we're having the hearing the 22nd and it's not going to change. So I think that also tells me that he's read the positions on both sides. He's looked at the legal ramifications as well as the case law and the law. And unless they say something that's completely different than their briefs, I think he's going to keep it intact.
The time is now 9:02 Pacific time, 12:02 Eastern time. Of course, the arraignment scheduled for this half hour. So let's go over some of the tweets from Bryan Entin before we do. As a reminder here, I know that Bryan Kohberger's name is going to be all over the place, and people are going to dissect every little bit of today pertaining to the suspect who is accused of committing these heinous crimes. But as a reminder, this always comes back to the victims, the 4 victims in this case. And let's please not forget who those victims are and how much that they were loved by family and friends and the University of Idaho community alike. Kaylee Gonzalez, 21 years old. Madison Mogen, 21 years old. Xana Kernodle, 20 years old. And her boyfriend, Ethan Chapin, 20 years old. They should all be in their early, either in their college years or post-college years. And thinking of them today as far as, and thinking of their families as well, because of course, in covering stories involving just terrible acts of evil, you get to know families when they deal with tragedy and the strength that they show during times that are so unspeakably difficult. And just thinking about the victims and their families today, I know that there's going to be so much made about Bryan Kohberger. There's going to be endless headlines, endless coverage. Every twitch that he makes in the courtroom today is going to be micro-analyzed, but we don't get to see the faces of the victims in that courtroom today. And we have to remind our audience that this always comes down to the 4 here on the center of your screen. Let's go now to Bryan Entin's latest from Twitter. We're going to really leaning on him. He was our lead guest, but unfortunately, he was not able to join us at the beginning of this live stream. Reason being is because they let in reporters a little bit early, given how the line was growing outside the Latah County Courthouse. And so Bryan might be hopping back on later on the program, but he has not been on yet, so you haven't missed any of him. All right, his tweet from 4 minutes ago. I count about 25 people here sitting in the family section. A lot of people I have not seen before. Many are already emotional. Family is on one side, media on the other, about 50 people total. Another tweet 3 minutes ago. Totally quiet in here waiting. All you hear is reporters typing and Olivia's baby making soft cooing noises. And then 1 minute ago, I don't see any of Bryan Kohberger's family here, but there is also an overflow room I can't see. And interesting that they have the overflow room. The overflow room is set up exactly for that purpose, for overflow, for the people that weren't able to fit into the main seated area in the back of the courtroom. So no word yet that Bryan Kohberger has entered the courtroom. That video in the center of your screen is from January, but it will likely look very similar to that process today. He will be taken in handcuffs. He has been in solitary in the Latah County Jail for the last 5 months. Today, he gets to see inside of a courtroom for the first time since January. And again, Jennifer, for those of our audience members just joining in, actually, hold on a second. I promised feeds as they came in, and I have something here. Stand by. They're queuing it up. Hold on. In fact, I'm going to come out here to the Stream Center shot and see if I can get ready to hit this. We have some what we call exterior B-roll coming in. This is video from outside the courthouse, and they are queuing it up to share. And let's see if we can bring this in. This is courtesy now of News Nation. So this is the video from the last half hour or so. Let's see if we can play this back and show you some of the sights and scenes from outside the Latah County Courthouse. I believe this is queued up now, and they're going to be playing this back here in just a second. And let's see if there is a sequence of exterior shots that they were just transmitting back to News Nation affiliated stations like ours. And so we'll try to come back to this if they do, in fact, play this video. In fact, what we'll do is we'll bring that up between Jennifer and I so that if it starts playing, we can kind of all see it here together. But a lot of family members, a lot of members of the media all filing in, descending on Latah County, a relatively small town, rural town of Idaho. We have seen so many cases. I think back to Alex Murdaugh being in the low country of South Carolina, just so many places where these stories just take an enormous amount, these areas that receive an enormous amount of media attention, Jennifer, and now we're back in Latah County, Idaho.
Yeah, and it's very interesting. I know in my Twitter feed, I have a lot of individuals that are on there that are from here. They're from Pullman. They attend both of these universities. And those individuals say it is so eerie having him at the Latah County Jail.
Here is that video now, Jennifer, and we're going to see some of the folks. This is not live, folks. This is on a delay. This is some of the News Nation video that's being quite literally fed out to stations as we speak. So we're looking here at some of the raw, as we call it, B-roll that is coming in. We'll see some of the shots from outside the courthouse itself. And this is now used by news stations to prepare things for their afternoon newscast. All right, so here we see some family members. Jennifer, who do you recognize here?
Well, I have to get on my glasses to answer that question.
There is that is Kaylee's sister.
Yes,
and
the
her baby.
Gonzalez's are here.
Yes, these are the Gonzalez's.
And his attorney. And then you also see, well, both Gonzalez's are there. His attorney is in the background. And then, of course, his sister. I would believe that is entirely Goncalves family and friends.
1 minute ago, Brian Enton tweeting, Bryan Kohberger just entered the courtroom. Still no tweet from Brian signifying that Judge has entered the courtroom yet for the arraignment to officially begin. Once, of course, he enters the courtroom, that will signify the beginning of the arraignment. Again, the arraignment is going to be a formal presentation of the charges from the indictment. And then, of course, Bryan Kohberger is expected to enter a plea of not guilty. But we'll, of course, follow this in real time on Twitter. And then the moment that we're allowed to give you the video from inside and transmit the video from inside the courtroom, we will do so here live as we see some people making it up the stairs and into the Latah County courtroom. This is believed to be in the last hour at some point. Again, this is courtesy of our friends at News Nation. Jennifer?
And you heard JB Bryan describe that it's emotional already in that courtroom. And I would very much expect that. This is really difficult for these victim families. And this is their first time being back in the presence and realizing now things are going to move forward.
Coming in, everybody, WFLA senior investigator Walt Buteau is sitting down here with us on stream. You're going to sit right over there, Walt. Yes, you can come sit down. The feed, folks, just ended. That was all the B-roll coming from the Latah County Courthouse. We'll get Walt in the saddle here and get him ready to go here in just a moment. Let's bring you back in with Jennifer Koffendorfer and myself. Brian Enton tweeting out a moment ago, and we'll continue to read his tweets here aloud. Let's see. Kohberger is wearing an orange jail jumpsuit, seems to be wearing a bulletproof vest underneath. Judge is reading Kohberger his rights and the charges. Kohberger is looking straight ahead and nodding a bit to show that he understands what the judge is saying. That's the last tweet. So the arraignment itself has officially begun, Jennifer. So far, very procedural. This is exactly what we were expecting as far as today. Brian doesn't note if there's any difference in appearance with Bryan Kohberger, or if it's just exactly what we have seen in really earlier this year in January.
Yeah, so often you see a big difference. Sometimes a loss of weight, sometimes gaining weight. So it will be interesting to see if he's unchanged by the experience.
I want to bring in now friend of the program. It has been a while since we've had WFLA senior investigator Walt Buteau join us here in the Stream Center. Walt, how are you?
Good, good. I think it's because you're not in the main newsroom anymore. I don't see you.
Yeah, the Stream Center. We are now a little bit separated from the newsroom since we moved into this location, and I'll bring everybody up here for just a quick second. Walt, let's you've been in the courtroom for high profile indictments. This is happening right now. We can't see inside the courtroom because streaming is prohibited. We're going to get the video here shortly as we understand it. But what is it like being inside that courtroom for the formal presentation of charges?
Very obviously dramatic in a case like this. And I know he the big surprise would be if he pleads not guilty. Nobody expects him to plead not guilty, but there's, obviously tension. And as a journalist, I've always decided to sort of sit in the back of a courtroom because now, you can see the victim's family generally on one side. Doesn't always happen. I bet in this case it does. And then you can see the defendant's family if they're there on one side. And by taking a distant view, you can sort of hear emotions sometimes, gasps, and see the emotions. And that's, of course, important because it's a crime, a horrible crime, just gut-wrenching, especially the two girls who were best friends since grammar school. Heartbreaking. Go to college together. And so that part's heartbreaking, but the drama is there and the reaction is there. And the reaction sometimes can be very important.
Yeah. And that's why Brian Enton is pointing out some of his observations. And we'll all be able to see this at some point in the not too distant future. We're just waiting on the arraignment itself to conclude before we can actually transmit the video. Other video feeds are coming in. This is one of our other feeds. This is the path coming in from one of our other affiliations. It's frozen on something. I'm not sure exactly what this is. We will come back to this, but again, just pointing out that we're accessing all the feeds that we can inside and outside the courthouse once we are legally allowed to do so. But actually, hold on a second. No, so now we have more B-roll coming in. This is the same B-roll that we had from earlier. We'll leave this up here on your screen as we read through some more tweets from our own Brian Enton of News Nation, senior national correspondent with, of course, News Nation. So let's read his latest tweet. The judge is reading Kohberger his rights and charges. Kohberger is looking straight ahead, nodding. We know that. Kohberger just said, "Yes, I do," when the judge asked if he understands anything that he says can be used against him. That's, of course, very standard. Judge is now going over the indictment with Kohberger, or I want to make sure I'm reading this correctly. But yes, so this is all happening right now, Walt. And so next up is, of course, he's going to enter a plea of either guilty or not guilty, and we expect it to be not guilty.
Yeah. And I think that obviously that would be the one surprise from here, other than an outburst. But again, with the family there, I imagine as much as Brian Enton and other reporters would look for that, exactly what happens in that scene, it must be, I imagine, extremely difficult for family members of the victims to be that close to to someone who allegedly just brutally just destroyed their lives in a lot of ways and murdered these young individuals.
Brian Enton sharing out here that the judge is going over the inducement with Kohberger. What do you make of that, Jennifer, as far as his last tweet? Do you follow exactly where we are as far as the indictment?
Yeah, he's just really reading the charges. Again, that's all that indictment is going to contain. And this is going absolutely as expected. It's just a procedure, and there's typically no fireworks and no.
Yeah. So this is video from January. We're going to get the video here shortly. How tense, Walt, can it be in that courtroom when all of these months have passed? Everyone, your life is different now than what you had, of course, in January or November of last year. What's the tension in that courtroom like right now, especially considering you have the family members of the victims, seeing many of them, I'm sure if they weren't at the court hearings in January, they might be seeing Bryan Kohberger
in the flesh for the first time.
For the first time. What do you make of that?
I tend to put myself in my role as a father with something like that. It's a nightmare. And I've been, I think, in 3 different cases where those emotions boiled over and somebody actually tried to jump the defendant. That's the worst case scenario and the most dramatic scenario. But I think you will see a mix of family members trying to stare down the defendant, try to get him to look them in the eye. And I think that's one thing a reporter looks at. What did the defendant look at? Did the defendant make any attempt to look back at who was looking at him? And what are the family members looking at? And how do they react to each and every word? I think Jennifer said, this is theoretically going to be routine, but there's definitely nothing routine about it emotionally for those family members, because their lives, we will cover this case for as long as it takes, but it never ends for those victims' families ever. And that's why we look back at cases that are 10 years old and 15 years old, because you hear the word closure, and we discussed this with the Brian Laundrie case. There is no I don't believe there's any closure, obviously, for anything like this, whether it's a verdict, a guilty verdict, the death penalty. There's no closure. You lost a love of your life, and they're gone forever. And they're gone in the most brutal way that it can happen. And a stabbing, there's nothing more personal and face-to-face than a stabbing. And for the family members, I just imagine them playing that over and over. Why did it happen? We still don't have a motive, correct?
Right. Jennifer has been among many who have opined on what a potential motive could be. Much has been made about Bryan Kohberger's past and his upbringing, but exactly what the motive could be for entering a college residence in the middle of the night and stabbing 4 people to death and leaving.
Not even his college. Not his college either.
Right.
I mean, he traveled to a college.
Right. Passing by one of the surviving roommates. I mean, so really quickly, let me remind her, while we have this audience, while we're waiting for this video to come out, I know that there's more tweets to get to. Really quickly, he mentioned Brian Laundrie. Wednesday, we have another live stream, a pretty significant pretrial hearing in the Gabby Petito versus Brian Laundrie, the families, the lawsuit that exists between the two of them. That is going to be happening on Wednesday. So look out. You can follow me on my various social media platforms. I'll be tweeting out and sharing out on Instagram and Facebook details about that significant hearing. We'll talk more about that later. But back to some of the comments that we have on the WFLA YouTube page, as well as, let's get back now to Brian Enton's Twitter. Let's read the latest that came in. Okay, the judge is reading each victim's name as he goes over the murder charges. Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonzalez, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin. Judge tells Kohberger the maximum penalty is life in prison or death. Kohberger says yes, that he understands the charges and the penalties. Kohberger is, quote unquote, standing silent. So the judge is entering not guilty pleas. The prosecution now has 60 days to seek the death penalty. Kohberger's attorney is asking the judge to set the trial for October. She says it will take at least 4 weeks, maybe 6. So now they're getting into conversations. Jennifer, we talked about this earlier, whether or not we were going to get a relative trial window. October is much sooner than I was anticipating, especially when you're talking about the mountain of digital evidence that they have to go through. So whether or not this actually happens, we'll find out what the judge says. Judge, by the way, if I say judge, that is because the judge's name is Judge. Judge John Judge. So Judge is going to be discussing that back and forth now with each legal team. But I find this is the most interesting. Everything has been relatively procedural up until this point, but Kohberger is standing silent. So the judge entered not guilty pleas. So that leads us to believe that Kohberger himself did not say the words not guilty.
That was one of the 3 possibilities we read about, right? That if he did not say anything, the judge would enter that for him. And you wonder, why wouldn't he say those words? Is there a legal advantage of some sort? I doubt it, but why wouldn't he say not guilty?
That's undoubtedly, Jennifer, that seems to me like a very calculated decision to not, if again, we're reading this correctly, and we'll have the video here soon. So we'll be able to see for ourselves and hear for ourselves, but to not have the defendant in the case enter himself a plea of not guilty verbally, what does that signify to you?
Oh, to me, that signifies somebody who has made a decision to keep the control. He's not going to be forced to say the words not guilty. He's going to force somebody else to say it. So I'm not surprised. We knew this was a possibility, but we knew that not guilty would be the outcome today.
A bit of breaking news from News Nation's Brian Entin in the courtroom. The Bryan Kohberger trial has a date set for October 2nd at 8:30 a.m.
That's quick.
I never...
But it can be delayed. Obviously.
Absolutely. So again, bringing everybody back on screen here, right to a speedy trial. Those aren't just words. That actually is, of course, the law in this country. You have a right to a speedy trial. And so people who have been waiting, it's almost we're conditioned now to just think that there is going to be extended delays, but a pretty aggressive trial date set of October 2nd at 8:30 a.m. And people who are thinking, oh my goodness, that's so far from now. We've had some trials that get delayed for years. I'm telling you, and I hope for the sake of all the victims' families that this does not get delayed years. But this is a pretty aggressive trial date that has been set for October 2nd at 8:30 a.m. And a plea of not guilty has been entered by the presiding judge, and court has been adjourned, according to Brian Entin. So it's all over after it started about, I think, 15 minutes ago. It didn't start at exactly 9 Pacific. It started about, let's see here. So it was about 12 minutes, roughly or so 12 minutes. So we'll have 12 minutes of video to play back. So now the answer that I want to know is whether or not the judge and whether or not district court in Idaho will permit the pool camera feed to then distribute the video so that we can play that back. Jennifer, we were talking about the 2 additional motion hearings that are now set to take place and whether or not that is going to happen back to back. Based on the court being adjourned, that tells us that in all likelihood that we're now going to have to wait till 10 and 11 a.m. Pacific time for the second and third motions to be heard in court. And maybe we get the video really soon as far as the video from inside the courtroom of the arraignment.
Yeah, a little surprising. I would have expected him to go back to back because, again, the arraignment is so short, but he probably has a very calculated reason for doing that. Perhaps Bryan Kohberger will not be at his hearing. It'll be very interesting to see also the feed, if these hearings are allowed to be seen, as far as we know they're going to be, but has there been a change of heart? Have you heard anything about that, JB?
I have not, but I'm paying attention here. And so we have an alert system that is set up in at WFLA for breaking news alerts. Hold on, I'm getting a notice here. Yeah, okay. So they are preparing now to distribute the feed, but that doesn't tell us anything about exactly when the feed will be available. They're just getting ready to transmit it when, of course, the pool camera feed says it's time to transmit it. So that's where things stand. And so anything else here? Let's go back to Brian Enton's Twitter and just make sure that we are crossing our T's, dotting our I's. And yeah, we have everything wrapped up here. Kohberger's attorney is asking the judge to set the trial for October and 4 to 6 week trial. Walt, what do you make of that?
They said 4 to 6 weeks.
4 to 6 weeks. That was according to Kohberger's attorney, Ann Taylor.
It sounds a little short, doesn't it? For a quadruple murder.
I guess it depends on the number of witnesses.
I would bet it goes more towards 6. And I think jury selection is not going to take a standard amount of time.
Well, if you're a defense attorney, we just don't know what the evidence looks like. We don't know. And we don't know how many witnesses could be testifying at trial, how long that testimony could be.
And I think if there's especially strong evidence, which we don't know whether there is or not really yet, I don't think. We don't know if there's we don't have a murder weapon, right? We still don't have a murder weapon.
DNA has been pointed to as publicly being the strongest, not to mention the vehicle as well.
If the evidence isn't strong, I've definitely covered gruesome cases, not necessarily a quadruple murder where the defense doesn't even put on a case, where they merely think, we're gonna win this on appeal, or we're gonna somehow win it on appeal. Let's not waste time in the courtroom. That I guess could shorten it, but I don't know, 6 weeks. To me, 6 weeks would make more sense than 4, but we'll find out, won't we?
I'm very curious. I'm texting right now, Peter Tragos. I want to see when he's going to be. I'm going to tell him that we're on now.
Also, JB, that's just the initial trial date. I would expect that to be continued multiple times.
Yeah,
and the length to be 4 to 6 weeks. I don't think there's a chance that that's what they're looking at. And I go back to the facts we do have: 51 terabytes. Thousands of photos. We're going to have video. The DNA alone. Right. How about just information on the cellular information and all those experts? I just think it'll be a while.
Let's you can see that we have the latest guests coming in, and it's I believe we're going to have Peter Tragos, the lawyer that he's hopping on the Zoom call right now. I'm really just eager to get his perspective, and hopefully Peter, if you can hear me, I'm waiting for you to turn on your camera there, and hopefully you can hear us okay. But yeah, I mean, the likelihood that this actually happens in October, I mean,
unlikely. I
think unlikely is probably a pretty good way of putting it. But I was looking at you, I was making eye contact with you because you and I know, because we have gone through court documents before. Right. We've gone through evidence dumps in the past. You and me both in respective cases. 51 terabytes. There are some people out there that megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes. It doesn't calculate in their brain.
How many pages? Any thoughts on pages?
Right. And I know that News Nation.
Although if it's terabytes, we're assuming correctly that if it's pictures, it takes up more space, correct?
Well, video is really what's going to take up a lot of space, and how compressed it is, and where it's coming from, its origin.
But still a lot of information.
51 terabytes is utterly massive. And I know that doesn't compute with a lot of if you work in IT or you work
you're right.
You get
that's
it,
right. Yeah. I don't know if I get it, to be honest. I know it's a lot.
It's a lot.
I know it's a lot, but I don't know if I understand what that is relative to. Like, what would you compare it to? Is it like, how many terabytes would War and Peace be? I mean, I don't know. You know, I'm talking pages, but
I mean, I'm just, I do know that it's the I think News Nation had, and thank you to Chris in our comment section. 51 terabytes is equivalent to 331 million pages.
Wow.
But there's not going to be 331 million pages.
No.
It's going to come down to video. And but I'm telling you, man, if I'm going through, if I'm an attorney and I just got a hard drive delivered to my office or cloud access to 51 terabytes, I might just take a moment to go into a corner, crawl up into a little ball and cry for a minute because I'm now looking at the next, I don't know, year and a half of my life going through all that. I mean, it's an enormous amount of data. And I said earlier, it would take an army to go through it. It would take an entire team.
Well, I think you would hire, it would seem like, depending on the size of the law firm, you're going to hire somebody, a clerk or somebody to go through that as well.
And also too, how much of that 51 terabytes is relevant to the actual case itself. And Peter is expected to hop back on here momentarily. I have here in the Stream Center, come back to Jennifer here in just a moment. And Jennifer, if you have to hop off, I'm talking to you. If you have to hop off, I know you have obligations. Jennifer was on Dateline in the most recent episode, and of course she has her obligation. She's a frequent guest now on News Nation. I'm looking here at this screen. I'm waiting for the feed to pop up, similar to how we saw it get re-queued, right? Similar how we saw the B-roll just play back a short time ago. They're going to re-queue now the pool camera feed from inside the courtroom, and as that gets transmitted to stations across the country, we'll be able to share that with you here live on stream. So we're waiting for that. That is pretty much the next thing to happen here. In addition to the gag order hearing and then the motion to compel hearing. And the motion to compel, there's been a disagreement on evidence between prosecutors and the defense.
Big surprise.
Yeah, right. No, that's standard, folks. As far as hearings to dictate whether or not who gets evidence and how evidence is received, and sometimes the timeline. There's so many little things that go into motion hearings when it comes to the discovery process for evidence. But again, the perfect person to ask is Peter Tragos. Just waiting for him to hop on. I wonder if he's on the golf course. Knowing Peter, maybe he might be joining us from a golf course. Knowing him, he's a good guy. So let's go over some of the questions in the meantime as we wait for Peter to hop back on stream. Yari says, #HJB, is it possible for one person to go through 1 terabyte? Sure. Oh yeah, 1 terabyte? And it depends. So 1 terabyte of data could mean so many different things. To your point, it could be documents, could be pictures, it could be video, and also too
could be audio.
Could be audio.
Audio is going to take
voicemails.
up absolutely. Voicemails, text messages, everything.
And I know in dealing with so much video, that compression is a huge deal. Sometimes videos get compressed for things like storage on the cloud or storage on a device. Sometimes video is uncompressed and it's much, much larger. So 51 terabytes doesn't tell us all that much. Okay, the pool feed is being queued up. Let's listen in here. This is officially now, I want to make sure that we have this right. This is now a replay. This is the pool camera footage being transmitted out to stations across the country. So they have queued it up. They are about to play it, and we're going to hear it here live on stream for the first time. But again, this is a replay from approximately 30 minutes ago. So what they're doing now is they're beginning on this first frame. They are alerting stations across the country to get ready to receive this video. This is how pool camera situations work. It's queued up. It's kind of ready to go. And then they will hit play once they get the green light. During this, what we're going to do is Walt and I and guests we will remain quiet We will listen in. I'll try to boost up the audio as much as possible here in the Stream Center so we could hear as much as possible. And then afterwards, we're going to break down some of your observations, some of your questions. We'll be looking for hashtag HeyJB, hashtag HeyWalt in the YouTube comment section. So the video now is being queued up. They've now gone to the closed door. So what we're going to see is Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger enter the courtroom. We're going to see Judge read out the indictment. Let's bring up audio. And we're waiting for, again, the pool camera team. They are alerting all stations. We also have a backup feed in the event that this one goes out. But again, this is the indictment for those of you just joining us. The indictment of Bryan Kohberger, the suspect, the lone suspect in the murders of 4 University of Idaho students in November of last year. He is facing 4 first-degree murder charges as well as a charge of burglary as well.
The silence we're experiencing now as we wait for the video.
There it is.
There
Let's
you
listen
go.
in.
Okay.
All rise. Thank you very much. Please be seated. Good morning, everybody. We have some people on Zoom here too, so okay, let's get on the record, please. Thank you. Okay, we are now on the record in State of Idaho versus Bryan C. Kohberger, CR 29222803. Mr. Kohberger is in the courtroom along with his attorney, Ms. Taylor. I believe also part of the team is Jay Logston and Elisa Massa, who is participating by Zoom, I believe. The state is represented by Mr. Thompson, Latah County Prosecutor's Office, or Prosecuting Attorney. Ms. Jennings is of that office too, Latah County Prosecutor's Office. Also part of that team is Ingrid Beatty and Jeff Nye, both from the Idaho Attorney General's Office. I'm John Judge. If you don't know me, I'm the Latah County District Judge, and I'll be presiding over this case. So, Mr. Kohberger, you've already heard a lot of what I'm going to tell you at your initial appearance, but I'll repeat it to you because it's important, and I want to remind you of these issues. So I'll briefly cover your rights, the charges against you, and the maximum penalties if you are found guilty or if you plead guilty. So I'm going to start with the rights. You have a constitutional right to have an attorney represent you throughout these proceedings. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, then one is appointed at public expense. Ms. Taylor and her team have already been appointed, so that's taken care of. You have a right to a speedy and public jury trial where the state would be required to prove every element of each charge against you beyond a reasonable doubt. At that trial, you would have the right to cross-examine the witnesses called against you. That means to see, hear, and question them, to call witnesses to testify for you, and if you choose to testify in your own defense. But you're not required to testify because you also have a right of silence. That right is protected under the Idaho and federal constitutions, so you can remain silent throughout these court proceedings, and that can't be held against you. What you do need to remember, though, is that anything you do say, other than to your lawyers, could be used against you in a later court proceeding. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. You also have a right to appeal any final decision of the court. In order to exercise that right, you need to file a notice of appeal within 42 days of that final decision, or that right is waived. Also, if you are not a United States citizen, any finding of guilt in this state could have adverse consequences to your legal status. Do you understand these rights?
Yes.
Any questions about the rights?
No.
All right. So let's go to the indictment. You have a copy of the indictment in front of you?
Yes.
Thank you. And you see in the heading your name there. Is that your correctly spelled complete name?
Yes, it is.
Is that the correct birth date underneath your name?
Yes.
Are those the correct last 4 digits of your social security number?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to read you the charges on the indictment, starting with count 1, burglary. That is a felony under Idaho Code Section 18-1401 and 1403. This alleges that you, on or about November 13, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did unlawfully enter a residence located at 1122 King Road, Moscow, with the intent to commit the felony crime of murder. Count 2, murder in the first degree. That is a felony under Idaho Code Section 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. This alleges that you, on or about November 13, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Madison Mogan, a human being, by stabbing Madison Mogan, from which she died. Count 3, murder in the first degree, a felony under Idaho Code Section 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. This alleges that you, on or about November 13, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Kayla Gonzalez, a human being, by stabbing Kayla Gonzalez, from which she died. Count 4, murder in the first degree. That's a felony under Idaho Code Section 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. Alleging that you, on or about November 13, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Zana Kernodle. Excuse me. This is hard. I'm sorry. Zana Kernodle, a human being, by stabbing Zana Kernodle, from which she died. Count 5, murder in the first degree. This is a felony under Idaho Code Section 18-4001, 4002, 4003, and 4004. This alleges that you, on or about November 13, 2022, in Latah County, state of Idaho, did willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, with premeditation, and with malice aforethought, kill and murder Ethan Chapin, a human being, by stabbing Ethan Chapin, from which he died. This is signed on May 16, 2023, by the presiding grand jury. So now I'm going to go to the maximum penalties of each charge, starting with count 1, burglary, minimum 1 year, up to 10 years in imprisonment, fine of up to $50,000 or both fine and imprisonment, restitution for the victim's economic losses resulting from the crime. For counts 2, 3, 4, and 5, murder in the first degree, maximum penalties, life in prison, or the death penalty. Fine of up to $50,000, or both fine and life in prison or the death penalty. Restitution for the victim's economic losses resulting from the crime. Also, additional fine of up to $5,000 to be paid directly to the victim's families. If you are found guilty or plead guilty on each charge, and the maximum sentences are imposed consecutively, that means one right after the other, you could be facing 10 years in prison, followed by 4 consecutive life sentences or death penalties, fines of up to $200,000 and $20,000 to be paid directly to the families with any restitution resulting from the crimes. Okay. Mr. Kohberger, do you understand the charge in count 1? Yes. Do you understand the maximum penalty? Yes. Do you understand the charge in count 2, murder in the first degree? Yes. Do you understand the maximum penalty? Yes. Do you understand the charge in count 3, murder in the first degree? Yes. Do you understand the maximum penalty? Yes. Do you understand the charge in count 4, murder in the first degree? Yes. Do you understand the maximum penalty? Yes. Do you understand the charge in count 5, murder in the first degree? Do you understand the maximum penalty? Yes. Okay, Ms. Taylor, is Mr. Kohberger prepared to plead to these charges?
Your Honor, we will be standing silent.
Because Mr. Kohberger is standing silent, I'm going to enter not guilty pleas on each charge, counts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, at this juncture, the state has 60 days to give notice of intention to seek the death penalty. And Mr. Kohberger has a constitutional statutory right to a speedy trial. So let's start with you, Ms. Taylor, and then Mr. Thompson to discuss scheduling.
Your Honor, would ask the court to set this trial at the very outside of the speedy trial, right? We're not prepared to do anything but ask the court to do that today.
Okay. Count it out, and that would be November.
I have not counted it out, Your Honor, but I believe that would be about November 22nd is when it's maybe November 20th. Yeah. So I'd ask the court to set it for an October trial date.
How long do you think it would take to try the case?
My best guess is it would take at least 4 weeks, maybe 6.
So you'd like me to set this for a 6-week trial?
At this point, I would.
And to do so, I will have to jury trials I have, but this is more critical. So, Mr. Thompson, what's your...
Those trial dates are workable to the state judge.
About October 2nd, starting. Okay, for 6 weeks.
Yes, sir.
Anything else we need to address today? Taylor?
Not with regards to the trial,
Anything else?
No.
Mr. Thompson?
Nothing to say at this time, no.
All right. So with that, by the way, I do want to let everybody know, if they don't already know this, that once the grand jury issued the indictment, preliminary hearing scheduled to start on June 26th was no longer needed and is vacated. So some people are confused about that. So I thank council and media and the public for your attention and respect. So we are adjourned. Thank you.
Bryan Kohberger electing to stand silent, and the judge entering a plea of not guilty on the 5 charges, 4 for first-degree murder, an additional charge for burglary as well. JB Buno, WFLA senior investigator Walt Buteau here with you live in the WFLA Now Stream Center. We're really going to hone in now on your reaction, folks, your comments. We use our hashtag system here in the Stream Center. So if you use hashtag HeyWalt, hashtag HeyJB, I think Jennifer Coffindaffer might still be hanging around. She's invited to pop back on whenever she'd like. I see her in the corner of my.
Okay, let's go to comments and discussion. What do you think? Why would he not give a plea? Why?
It's like he wants to. It's like he wants to play these little games, mind games.
Mm-hmm.
And like he knows he has the family there right in front of him, and he knows by playing these little games, that's even more he can hurt them. And he gets a kick off of it. That's my opinion about the sick piece of shit.
You think it might be a form of narcissism where it's
yeah,
he has to have the control? Ree said power play.
Yeah, he wants to be in control of the whole situation. And it's like this little game that he thinks is funny.
And I'm sure his attorney had something to say about it. She might have said, don't say anything, because he said right from the get, when they first arrested him, he's going to be exonerated. I mean, all of this is going to go away. Debbie said, did he ask if he was the only one? Yep, he did. He asked in Pennsylvania if he was the only one arrested. Yep, he did. Now, some people say that was just a rumor, but it was reported by a television station in Pennsylvania. I don't know because I wasn't there.
And didn't they say that he wanted to be moved from a man's jail to a woman's system?
You know, I don't know because I couldn't quite find the source to that article, so I left it alone. Welcome back, Casey. Casey became a YouTube member again. Welcome back.
Well, my feeling about that, if it is true, I don't know if it's true or not, but maybe he wanted to go there because there's females there and he can try and unalive them.
Yeah. I know. I agree. Avi, Circle Box, you still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I was just listening. I don't know. I think he was definitely trying to, I guess, be in somewhat control of the situation by not responding or not entering the non-guilty plea, I guess I should say.
But he knows how the system works, and he knows if he sits silent, that the judge will enter it for him. So it was one last dig.
Mm-hmm. At the family and of the whole situation. It's like you said, he wants to be in control of it, to make everybody play his little game that he has in his mind going on.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right. Tiffany said Bryan has said nothing about this trial, not one word, and Taylor doesn't lose. Tiffany, grab the link. Come on up. Come on up, because Ann Taylor, that is one thing about her, and I don't mean the clothing line. I mean the lawyer who she likes a bear fight, if you know what I mean.
It sounds like Bryan.
Mm-hmm.
He likes with his little game. It's like he's still, you know, that questionnaire and all, it's like he's still conducting that in his mind. You know how to get away, how he can get away with unaliving people. It's like in his mind, he's still doing this in his mind.
Oh, I agree 100%.
And it's like he's playing a chess game to control where he's putting each player.
Sarah Adams says, I don't have anything nice to say about Ann Taylor and her cash grab. Well, I wouldn't go that far because everybody is deserving of a good defense. And she's not putting it out there for 5 years from now. She's putting it out there for October. So I agree to disagree. Thank you, Lone Wolf. Fifth Amendment. I'll clarify this even further. Anything you say can and will be used against you, but you have the right to remain silent. And in that right, you also have the right that your complete silence cannot be used against you. And I totally understand that. But when it comes to a plea, why can't he just say not guilty? We weren't expecting him to say guilty. Why can't he just say not guilty? Why would there be an issue of not giving a plea? That's my question. That's my thought, Lone Wolf. And thank you for the super sticker. Tiffany's coming up. Hello, girlfriend.
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
Hi, Tiffany.
Hey, how's every little thing? How's everybody?
I'm doing good.
Okay, so this man here, Brooks, this is just my opinion. This is just Tiff. I believe everything that this boy does, man, whatever you want to call him, is very intentional. He didn't just get, and a lot of people say, well, he's not that smart. He thinks he's smart. One thing he's not is dumb. And I think every word that he says, every move he makes, everything that he does is very, very intentional. In my humble opinion, Bryan been thinking about doing this for a very, very long time. I think even before Kaylee and all of this, I think way back a long time ago, he had this thing that I'm better. I'm gonna prove that I can get away with this. I think that he has been planning this for a very long time. He is not gonna make mistakes, and just be he's not going to make mistakes just because he's ignorant. Everything that he does, from the nice chief, this is just me, to not pleading, to saying I'm going to be exonerated. Everything that he does is intentional and it's on purpose. So I don't know, maybe he has it planned out. This man probably believes that these people actually do not have enough DNA on me and I'm going to walk. Because I'm gonna tell you something. Everything that they have, I could not. If I was on the jury, excuse me, if I was on the jury with everything that I know right now, everything that I've heard, I would not be able to say that he's committed these murders, nor would I even be able to say that I would be for the death penalty, because I couldn't convict him. I just don't have enough. It's not enough DNA for me. It's not enough DNA to put this man on death row. And to me, if there is nothing in that car, if they have no kind of DNA from these roommates and nothing in that car, in my humble opinion, he's gonna walk.
I agree. Where we're sitting right now, it's not near enough.
At all.
Cause affidavit is the weakest evidence they have. So let's say we're having the trial today. They've already thrown out the touch DNA, so the sheath cannot be considered.
Right.
So what do we have? 12 cell phone pings, a trip to Clarkston, and Dylan saying she saw someone with bushy eyebrows dressed like a ninja. Would you put someone to death for that?
No way. I don't even believe that was Bryan driving that car. If he did commit these murders, I honestly believe in my heart of hearts he was already there. He was already hiding out. Or maybe he was out there in the woods somewhere. I do not believe that was him messing up them turns and driving that car. If anything, he had a driver. Because he can't be in two places at one time.
I agree with Tiffany there. I believe somebody was supposed to go with him in this. I don't believe he did it alone.
No. You got to have damage control. You can't hold up 4 big grown people with no knife. You can't bring a knife to a gunfight.
No.
That's right.
And now the timeline, according to Dateline NBC, which is not the probable cause affidavit, so it's a media organization, we're down to 9 minutes. 20 minutes was hard enough to swallow. But now he was in and out of the house in 9 minutes. There's got to be an accomplice somewhere.
Not only that, without a trace, that's not possible. That is humanly impossible. He had somebody on the inside, i.e. Bethany or Dylan is going to come out. Don't come for me, but if you do, I'm ready for it, honey. I'm in Dallas. He had an inside help. And I honestly believe it's not just those two. I count him. I'm side-eyeing Dylan boyfriend, Quentin, or whoever he is. He's on my radar. He's on my radar. I'm sorry. He's on my radar.
Hey, they better come after both of us, because I agree completely with you, Tiffany. That's
yes,
my
ma'am.
thing.
I was born at night, but not last night. Come on.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying? And the thing about it is that don't victim shame. She was frozen inside. Let me explain something to you. And I'm going to tell, I think I've told Brooks this one time before. In my humble Tiffany opinion.
Yes.
After this man killed these 4 people, and everybody says there's so much blood, this, that, and the third, and we know after a while what bodies do. They release gases. They release bodily functions. There is no way, in my humble opinion, that after these murders happened at 3 or 4 in the morning, that there was not a smell, not nothing. Let me tell you something. 1 body is bad enough. 4 is incomprehensible. The smell would be so bad, you cannot even stomach it. I believe that Bethany or Dylan maybe left with Bryan, had somebody come through, maybe had the boyfriend come through, and they came back. I believe they came back early that morning, and that's when the show began. I don't believe they sat there in that house with that kind of a smell. You cannot stomach it.
Yep. And then
Not four
Dylan,
bodies. You can't stomach. Listen, the one you heard the police officer the investigator in Gannon's trial said he got close to it and opened it, and that's just one little boy. Okay, we're talking about 4 bodies in 5 hours that's releasing gases. There is no way. First of all, they wasn't asleep, so they could stop that lie. Second of all, it was no frozen nothing. There is not a human possible way they could stay in that house 8 hours with 4 bodies, dead, blood, a leaking gas, and they just be okay. I believe they left with somebody and they came back around 7:30 or 8 o'clock or whatever the case is, called their friends over, get these drugs out this house or whatever, and then the show began.
yep, because that's odd. Dylan said that she overheard the individual saying, "I'm here to help you." All right. In my opinion, who was he there to help? Was he there to help you, Dylan?
The math ain't math, and the things gotta make sense to me. No. Do you know what kind of smell that would be? We're talking about dead bodies releasing gases, not just blood. Ladies, we have an issue every month, and if we don't take care of our stuff, you know how it smells. So 4, they was not in that house. You can't tell me that they slept through there till 12 o'clock. They left and they came back, and then they called 911.
But why did they call friends first?
But to get the dope out the house, Brooks, they got to get the dope out the house, sis.
Okay.
They got to get the dope out the house. See. So you gonna call your people that you already know, hey, this went on, this, that, and y'all come over here and let me get this stuff out the house. Then we gonna call the police and I'm a faint and play dead and all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Another problem I have is Dylan was calling Kaylee's, Maddie's, and all their phones trying to call them. It makes me wonder if she wasn't doing that just to make it look like whatever, a cover-up for some reason. Because why are you calling them? If you're hearing all this weird stuff going on, why did you not call 911? If you heard Zane crying, why didn't you go to see what was going on? That does not make no sense.
In the one of the officers, didn't he say that when he walked up to the front door before he stepped up the step, it was an overwhelming odor of blood? Didn't he say that?
That's what I thought I heard.
I know I heard that. I read it. So there's no way they was there.
And there's no way that no blood was not outside that home, not unless somebody cleaned it up.
And who was running from the house naked?
I know.
Not
unless it was Dylan's boyfriend.
That's the only one. If it's not Bryan, then it had to be that boyfriend. And that's who I'm side-eyeing anyway. Because to me, he got to me, that's the man with the plan. That's the one that got all the drugs. I really believe that.
Yeah.
And they know Emma and that other guy by happenstance because they all do drugs. That's just my opinion. If I'm wrong, I will come right back up here and apologize. But to me, not nobody else, this is just Tiffany. I believe drugs was involved. I believe some kind of money was involved. On top of that, I don't know what else was involved, but some kind of way. Baby, this wasn't just she didn't talk to me at the Mad Greek and now I'm mad I'm finna kill her. No, this goes way far beyond that.
It's deeper.
Or I never had sex before. No, this is way far beyond that.
Now, can we agree that Bryan's got to be somewhere involved?
Absolutely.
My husband said from the get-go, not one.
Absolutely, he's involved.
My husband said from the get-go, there's no way one person did this.
Greg is absolutely right.
I agree with him too.
Bryan is absolutely involved. Absolutely. I don't know how. I don't know. One thing I do know, he is not the only one. Period.
No, he's not. I don't feel that either, in my opinion.
You got to have some muscle to hold up 4 people. With a knife? No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
How are you going to get one when the other's trying to fight off the other person, the other individual?
I don't know. I don't think it would be too surprising if he was the only one involved. I see where y'all are coming from, but it wouldn't surprise me just from how he is. He seems to be so confident that, he thinks he can do anything and get away with it. That's just my opinion, though.
But see, to me, that's just book smart. Like, that's just narcissistic. I'm smarter. But I'm talking about some real gangster shit. You got to be one, bold, don't care what's going on, and he's not even that big. I just don't see him having that. He needs some muscle to help him. Now 1 or 2 people, maybe he could get away with it. Like, if it was just him, Kaylee and Maddie, then yeah. We're talking about 4 grown people with a knife. No, you need some kind of muscle. You need some help, and then you leave there without a trace. I don't believe in coincidences. No, ma'am.
And Ethan wasn't a small guy.
He's 6'4" or something another. Big.
Yeah. He was not small, so he could have fought off him, and then the others. Zane wasn't no weakling either, because supposedly she was fighting back.
Her daddy said she can take care of her own self. Her dad said that.
Yeah. So there had, I feel in my heart, And why would he come out there and state, was anybody else arrested?
It was all plotted, planned, and premeditated. Now he's just watching the show.
Sarah Adams says, and he did it. He left the sheath behind. Well,
on purpose.
A sheath was left behind, but it's been thrown out as evidence. They're not going to use it anymore.
And why is that?
If that's their smoking gun, Sarah, why would the prosecution say, I'm not going to use that anymore?
It's not enough. Either way, it was some kind of way defense can explain that away. I'm telling y'all, if it's not no direct contact with these victims in this car, because they didn't check his house, his parents' house, his storage. Let me tell you something. He didn't leave nothing behind. The car is the last thing. If there is no DNA in this Hyundai Elantra, nope, he's walking.
And I'm telling you, somebody had to have helped him to clean and do something to get out of there without no trace of nothing coming out of that home, no blood.
I agree. But I'm like the other lady, with everything that seems like they have, doesn't seem like it's enough to actually put him behind bars for, those innocent lives, those 4 innocent people. They may not have enough on him. So they could end up dragging this trial out for years, trying to get more and more evidence.
Yeah.
So
But
the
apparently
prosecution,
they have a lot of stuff. I mean, if they got 51 terabytes, that's a lot. We just don't know what all they have.
but it has to be connected to them.
True. We don't know about the 51 terabytes. We don't know what's in the car. The car would be a crime scene in itself because it's got to have DNA in it. And even though he believed it and everything, we have never heard that Hyundai, which was taken apart piece by piece by the FBI, has been entered into evidence. We haven't had an evidence hearing yet.
They've never even said what all they found in the car.
I mean, even if they don't get him for, taking those 4 innocent lives, he's still going to get a lot of charges. He's still going to do a lot of time in prison, but nowhere near the time he would get if they could get him convicted on at least one of them. But the DNA is a big factor. Brooks, I know you said like fingerprint DNA, but is that enough to say he was the one that actually did it?
Fingerprints don't hold up in court anymore, to be quite honest. They don't even use them. The touch DNA that's on the sheet that was in Madison's bed is not going to be used. So if we went to trial right now, we have 12 cell phone pings, and we have Dylan's eyewitness that he was she saw somebody dressed in ninja clothes with bushy eyebrows. He went to Clarkston and he came back by the house at 9:12 a.m. That's what the probable cause affidavit has to say.
But yeah, I mean, him having the knowledge that he has, he'd had to be really dumb to take his phone with him.
Yeah.
So if his phone did not ping in that area, then that's another strike against the prosecution on this.
Now, I wonder if he was the type of clothing he was wearing, if they maybe didn't check places, if some of the clothing she saw him wearing, if they didn't check places to see if he purchased anything like what she was claiming that individual was wearing.
Well, we have a Marshall's receipt and a Walmart receipt.
Mm-hmm.
And now they know that the K-bar was bought from Amazon. Again, what we have here is circumstantial evidence.
And then that one that K-bar they brought from Amazon, how do we know that's the murder weapon?
Exactly.
Yeah. We don't know.
The case seems like it's kind of falling apart for the prosecution. They're going to have to drag this on for another, at least probably 2 years, to try to get more evidence that will actually stick. You know, more proof that will actually stick. Because seems like what they got now, he's going to walk on those charges. You know, if they could try and get him on some of these other things, they're definitely going to, but he's not going to get a lot of time for it. But what it would do is if he got like 5 years for just one of them, then they would be able to have that 5 years to start building the case back up against him, because they wouldn't acquit him on it. They just wouldn't charge him with it. So therefore he could still be brought up on those charges again.
That does make sense, because then if he's in there for 5 years, that's giving him at least that time length to get more evidence in play.
Yeah, sadly, it shouldn't work that way, to be honest. But it does work like that at times. To be honest, I don't agree with that. I don't like that, you know, type of stuff. You know, putting someone away for several years while you're trying to get more evidence to really pin them. I mean, I understand, but at the same time, I don't like it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I don't like it either. At the
same time, I don't like it. Hey, someone's got YouTube playing in the background. Mute it. Hey, someone's got YouTube playing in the background.
Oh, I do. Hold on. Sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry, y'all.
That's all right.
And we know they have a lot more evidence because a grand jury indicted him. But the grand jury only sees what the prosecution has. The defense has no chance to go to the grand jury. All they see is what the state has. Someone has a lot of background noise. Someone has a lot of background noise.
Yeah, I just heard that.
Yeah.
But the grand jury only hears what the state has to offer. I'm not saying Bryan's innocent. I'm not saying Bryan's innocent. I'm not saying he's not involved. I'm trying to figure out how one unsocialized incel got into that house and became a ninja
Yeah.
in 20 minutes with no one else's help.
I mean, that's very mysterious. It especially with that guy being there. That guy had to fight back for sure.
Yeah.
Out of all of them, he had to fight back, and yet, you know, he didn't accidentally cut himself. And we've all seen it, cases like this. You know, blood gets on your hands. The knife becomes very slippery because the blood and whatnot, and you end up accidentally cutting yourself. That's how they caught a lot of these people. But in this case, they don't have that. Someone's phone's ringing.
That's my y'all. I gotta jump down, Brooks. I'll get at you later, baby.
All right, love you.
I got a million things going on. I love y'all. Thank you for having me up.
Take care. God bless.
Anytime.
Bye-bye.
You know, plus we have all the DNA in the house. I'm worried about reasonable doubt when they come to a jury situation. That's what I'm worried about. Because you have to explain to people that don't follow true crime. They have to sit there and they have to hear all of this laid out in front of them. And it's not going to be like watching YouTube or anything. They're going to piece by piece. And when you put doubt in someone's mind, that weighs in. That's a bigger thing.
Well, and also some of the terminology that these lawyers use, it doesn't translate to the average person. So that adds confusion on top of it. They have to dumb it down. I'm not saying the jury people are dumb by any means, but I'm just saying you got to dumb it down and speak normal language. Like when you talk to a doctor, they talk in doctor talk. I don't understand it. I tell them, hey, you got to dumb it down for me. Explain what you're saying. Because I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand some of this terminology. I don't understand why some of these lawyers still use that terminology when they're trying to convince a jury, and the jury doesn't understand a lot of these words, or I assume they wouldn't. And to me, that would, cause issue as well. So at the same time, is he actually going to have a fair trial since this whole case is blown up as big as it is?
He'll get
you got that as well.
Fair trial. He'll get a fair trial. It's just, it's going to weigh on people's minds until we get to the finish line. Did he do this on his own or not? And how? How can someone with a K-bar knife they brought from Amazon kill these people but leave 2 people behind? They wait out 8 hours to call for help.
Yeah. To me, that was suspicious.
Trace of blood outside the home.
Yeah. See, that part was suspicious with the 2 roommates. They didn't get attacked at all. And they waited so long before they called. And they actually didn't call the police right away. They called someone else, didn't they? Like some friends. And then they called the police, which I thought was really strange as well. Like, to me, that didn't add up. I'm sorry.
No, it doesn't. And I'm not understanding, like I said earlier, how she can make calls to all the roommates, but yet she's hearing saying, cry. Why didn't she go? Me being the person I am, I would have went to that person and see what's going on. Are you okay?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? She didn't even do that.
Or, I mean, the screams they had to hear. You would think they would have just called 911 right away and said something's going on. I'm scared to leave my room. But no, they stayed in their rooms. But then again, I mean, I'm not saying they're guilty by any means, but it just seems really odd that they had to hear those screams. Even if they were asleep, those screams had to wake them up. And
it did.
Don't call 911.
Probable cause affidavit. It did. I'm going off what the probable cause affidavit said.
Oh, it does say that?
I'm going off of what we know today. It said that Dylan was awoken. He heard the dog barking.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, if she heard all that going on, why didn't she call the police to them?
Well, I mean, why would because the dog is barking, but I mean, she was awoken. I'm joking, Amanda.
Yeah.
She was awoken, and then she heard this strange activity around the house, and she saw this guy dressed in ninja clothes.
And she didn't know this individual, and they're dressed like that. You're not calling 911? And then that individual you're hearing say, oh, I'm here to help you. Why would Ethan or Zane say that? That wouldn't make no sense coming from them. So obviously it had to be BK stating that comment.
It had to. It had to have been Bushy, and Xana was crying. What worries me for the family And I think one of the reasons, and it's hard for me to spit this out, that Ethan's family is not going to go to these hearings is they don't want to hear the medical examiner talking about how long it took for them to die. Because had someone called the 911, Ethan and Xana could have been saved.
Yeah, you never know. Who knows? All of them could have been saved. We don't know. We don't know. But they were never given that opportunity to even try to be saved because they waited 8 hours. So they took that opportunity that they possibly could have been saved by not calling.
Yeah. Well, and if Bryan really wants to throw this case into another whirlwind, he could blame one of them and say they assisted, and that's why they didn't call. He could do that, and I could see him doing that, throwing them into it, say they were part of this. That's why they didn't call right away, just to throw the case off more.
And then he's going to see her, and he don't unalive her. What was?
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying that I would have been happy if that happened because it would have been bad. But what made her so different that he didn't want to unalive her and he did the others? That's my question, is what made her so different? And especially since she would be a witness.
So she actually seen him in the house?
She seen his bushy eyebrows in a ninja outfit.
In the house or through a window?
In the house.
Outside
he went by her. Yeah, outside her door.
Wow. So she had to open the door, or he opened it?
She opened the door.
Oh my gosh, okay. I thought I heard that, but there's so much to this case, I get mixed up on some of it.
And that's understandable because it's a messed up case. But
So
yeah, she was.
Wow.
She was outside her door. She looked at him. The only way she could have seen he had bushy eyebrows is being face to face with him. Because if he's sideways, how's she going to see his eyes? Think about it.
Yeah, so they potentially made eye contact.
Yes.
Wow.
You wouldn't have been able to see his bushy eyebrows.
And according to the probable cause affidavit, like Wilson is pointing out, she saw him 3 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
People say, oh, it's a party house. They're used to people, strange people around there. But that's not the way it read.
And it's not Halloween, so why is some dude running around in somebody's house with the covering their face? Unless they're a burglar up to something.
Well, and the screams. I could not imagine hearing those screams.
Yeah, she's hearing him scream, and then you're hearing your friend that you supposedly care about crying. You're not going in there to check and see if they're okay, what's going on?
Or
but you can come out the room for a minute, look at his bushy eyebrows, and then go back in your room. What?
Yeah.
Were you making sure everything was finished?
In
my opinion?
Yeah, it's like at that point in time, I'd barricade myself in my room, throw the mattress, whatever I could against the door, and call 911, then try to get out a window.
But she was supposedly frozen.
I mean, I can believe that. I mean, yeah, I could definitely believe that, because I was in a situation where my dad got attacked by a dog. My mom, she literally froze. She couldn't move. And she's just kind of screaming. And I ran to where they were. And I got the dog off of my dad. And my mom was just stuck frozen. So I can vouch for that situation, So I understand the frozen part.
But my problem with this, though, is she was hearing all this noise and all this, and she was getting upset because they were being loud. From what I heard, she was getting upset because they were being loud.
Well, she yelled upstairs to quiet down the
Mhm.
dog. She was awoken by the dog.
Yeah. And then
So
she's
she,
hearing all this other stuff, and then she's seeing a strange man in a mask.
wait, so you're telling me she was bothered by the dog going nuts and barking, but she wasn't bothered by the bloody screams?
And
Wow.
if one of them were positioned in that hallway, she would have been able to see blood.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what about the other? Wasn't there another roommate, right?
Yeah, there's Bethany. Bethany was supposedly downstairs, but
Yeah.
they've been saying that she was on, I guess, something, putting pictures or something, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but neither one of them called 911.
No, they waited the next 8 hours later.
Yeah, 8
But,
hours.
but before,
That's
they had to make sure their
no
friends came over.
can figure out. Welcome, Lone Wolf. Glad you're up here.
I'm playing devil's advocate with this case.
Let's do it.
Actually, my money's on Ian Taylor. But see, based on my life experiences and the fact of the multiple governments trained me. So with all the different types of training that I have, okay, I question the narrative and the circumstantial evidence. Okay. You have an 8 hour, of course, I enjoyed listening as far as to the one panelist that was up here. She gave a lot of valid points and everything. Decomp starts exactly within 1 hour after no oxygen is in the blood. So basically, the body starts to explode and give off gases. The other thing is, unless Bushy had a full hazmat suit on, there is no trail of blood, no blood outside, okay? And the only DNA was the trace DNA on a knife sheath, but you had multiple different law enforcement agents that had been in that room, and only one law enforcement agent found the sheath. So there is a contradiction in at least 2 or 3 statements by LE about the sheath. Now I'm a stickler when it comes to reading and trying to decipher all the court documents. I'm not going to try this man in what the media is saying. I'm trying to leave an open mind, because I also have to think, well, what if I'm on the jury? Am I going to go by everything I hear in the media, or am I going to go by the evidence that is being presented?
I totally agree with what you're saying. That makes sense.
Okay. The other issue is, once again, you have 4 victims. Okay. I want to see the autopsy pictures of the knife wounds. The reason why I want to see that is because my government training taught me how to kill a person with a knife.
I'm assuming you were military or in the Army? Okay.
The one thing I know about that is there's
multiple
certain
branches.
Oh, wow. Thank you for serving our country.
Thank you, Lone. We love you.
So yeah, I'm curious about the knife wounds as well. I know the cops and investigators are saying that the knife wounds look similar to what that K-bar knife, I guess, looks like and whatnot. I'm not doubting them, but I would like to see that, because I mean they weren't saying what type of knife they thought it was, until they found out he ordered a knife off of Amazon. Maybe that wasn't even the knife he used. Maybe he ordered that to throw the case off if they went after, and he used a totally different knife.
But see, the thing is, nobody's listening to the experts. Okay, that is the standard issue K-bar knife. Now, anybody in the military that was given that standard K-bar knife in basic training, when you're out of basic training, you don't get that knife. Okay, you usually buy a better knife, because that basic knife, that blade would have broke off by the time you got to the third or fourth victim, because you're talking about hitting bone as you're stabbing.
Let me ask you this: what type of knife do you think could inflict that amount of damage on four people? I don't know the total amount of knife wounds between all of them, but I do know it was a lot. Or do you think he used multiple different knives?
No, actually, you can. K-bar has a wide range of knives. Okay, it would have had to have been a more expensive one. One that, as far as that, if you take the knife and stab concrete, the blade's not going to break.
And as you were saying before, there's certain pressure points in the body that if he hit him, it would unalive him. Correct?
Yeah, but most of them, okay. I think Maddie, because she had the least amount of wounds, okay. She probably would have died. She probably would have died as far as first, because of how the bedrooms were described as far as being a bloodbath. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All the others had multiple wounds.
Pat Kay
Now,
has a question for you. She wants to know, with your expertise, is it possible to off 4 people in 20 minutes?
Not unless you've had some sort of training.
Yeah, not unless you're John Wick.
Well, wouldn't it make more sense if you had 2 people to do that to 4 people?
Mm-hmm.
Well, there again, based on the interior evidence, because there's no blood leading outside the house, okay, that would mean that somebody would have had to have showered or something to remove the blood. They would have had to have removed their clothing, or else they had some sort of hazmat or
Yeah, plastic suit.
Yeah, some sort of a suit.
Yeah,
And
because they've been able to wash that off.
a ninja suit would leave a trail of blood because of it being fabric.
Didn't they find some foot, scrubs covering for shoes in one of the places that he lives or was staying at?
I haven't heard anything. I heard as far as him having gloves and everything, but I'm looking at the touch. I'm looking at all the evidence that has been presented so far.
Yeah.
And the other thing, it hasn't been determined how he entered the apartment.
Well, they said, I remember they said the front door was unlocked.
The sliding glass door.
And in my opinion, how I feel he was able to get in that sliding glass door. We don't know if Zane really actually made an order to get food. I feel he could have possibly ordered it to have them come to the door to deliver it as a distraction while he went inside.
Why would a person go through a glass sliding door when you have exterior lights on?
Not knowing if, there's cameras up front. If they don't have a door camera or anything like that.
Yeah, they don't have any cameras.
The darkest.
He may not have known that though.
The darkest place around that entire property was the front of the house. On the darkest night, the front door in Ethan's bedroom or Xana's bedroom was the darkest parts of the house. And I'm going based on body cam footage.
Now, I did hear that the front door was unlocked, and that was normal. So he could have just got in just through the front door, because it was said they never locked it.
Well, just across the state line, okay. There's a company that trains all first responders how to bypass code locks, key locks, locked windows.
So what do you think actually happened, since it only took 20 minutes? If you had to say with the information, how would you say it happened within 20 minutes?
Okay,
I'm just curious.
I'll give you my profile, because if he didn't do it, you still have a serial killer out there. Okay, a serial killer is determined based on the number of people that have died. Okay. See, when I profile, not only do I research then and moving forward, but I do a lot of reverse research. And based on my profiling, and there's also a retired profiler from the FBI behavioral analysis that him and I are still on the basic thinking that they've arrested the wrong person, that there's a serial killer out there.
So you don't think that Bryan's involved?
I don't think so.
Okay. I believe he's involved.
I do too.
I believe 100% he's involved. Obviously, I know more is going to come out and we will find out. All we can talk about today is what we know. Anyone that says, oh, we're going to wait and find out, well, then wait and find out. And in the meantime, we're going to discuss it.
Exactly.
That's right.
And there's nothing wrong with the, talking about the case and the evidence that is already out there. You try to piece something together to try to understand, exactly what's going on. So
that's right.
Let me ask you this. You say you don't think it's him. With your expertise on profiling people and being able to read people from crime scenes, who do you think, I guess, could be involved? Do you think the other two roommates could have been involved, but they didn't do it themselves? Or do you think it was a random attack that the two roommates didn't know the person?
Well, I hope I'm wrong as far as with Bryan, but I feel that there are at least two people involved. I believe they had the professional training as far as to do the killing. If I was going to do it, I would have done exactly what everybody has missed. I would have taken that step ladder that was on the side of the house, propped it up to the ledge, climbed the ledge, went in through Xana's bedroom, attacked Ethan and Xana first, and then I would have gone through the rest of the house.
Okay, when you say attack, you mean just, basically poke them a few times and make them drop and then move on, and then before you go back and finish them off? You think that's how that happened, how he's able to do it? Or you think he finished them off as he went through?
Based on my military hand-to-hand combat training, okay, they would have been dead before I moved on to the next person.
Okay, so you would have basically, so you're saying you would have finished that one off, went to another one, finished them off. You just wouldn't have wounded them to the point they were basically incapacitated.
Multiple stab wounds, the fact of how the body reacts, once you puncture a lung, the person's not going to scream out, not going to say help me or anything else. They're going to bleed out within minutes.
Yeah, true.
And you do that to each person. I feel that whoever killed them had military training and has access to basically railroad somebody else.
Now, did Bryan have military training or any background in it at all?
No.
No.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
No. Snazzy said, Judge says Associated Press Media Coalition needs to tone down their challenge to the gag order. So that's our answer right there. One Love says, I don't want Sarah to be upset. I apologize to her personally if my opinion upsets her. Sarah, you need to tone your shit down. We're all having a conversation here. If you don't like it, and if you want to wait for the outcome of the trial, then go do that. Because someone doesn't agree with you, Sarah, that shit's getting real old around here. I've been as tolerant as I can. Ridiculous. These fits you throw in here.
But basically, this is my profile. This is my opinion based on my past training. And each case that Brooks wants me to get involved in and profile, and okay, each case is different. Okay, some cases I can't even, I have to basically just sit back and supply the court document research and everything because it triggers me.
Yeah.
And not only is my health and well-being critical within the CLL family, so is everybody else, whether you're participating in these discussions or just sitting back listening to all these discussions. Okay. I care about everything I talk about, and I care about whether or not I'm going to not only trigger myself, but I'm going to trigger somebody in the chat. And another thing that a lot of people don't understand, you need to take breaks every 10, 15 minutes, which also is tied as far as to being in court and everything else and doing research, is because you start getting tunnel vision. And when you get tunnel vision, you can miss stuff.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Do you think if Bryan is the one that did it, do you think he could actually learn all these maneuvers and whatnot off of the internet and been able to play it out in real life?
Actually, I mean, it's a small percentage, but there are people as far as, well, okay, take your gaming, your simulations, okay, the Air Force, okay, most of your pilots, especially nowadays, most of your pilots, before they even get into a aircraft, they have done hundreds of hours of flight simulation.
Yeah.
So, can a person learn off the internet? Yes. There are people that have learned to commit crimes off the internet, and it's documented.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't have that mindset. It seemed like it would be harder for something like that, due to like another person, even if you learned it off the internet, for you to like keep your mind straight and continue knowing what to do instead of, you know what I mean? Like when you get in a fight, you know, you get hit in the mouth, you kind of lose, you know, what you were going to do through the whole fight. You kind of lose like your goal and your next steps. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Wasn't BK and Ian, didn't they know each other?
Who?
You remember that Ian Harsh?
Who's that?
The weird guy that lived near there?
The waiter that I'm friends with on Facebook with now?
Yes.
Oh,
I'm
the one that was
wondering
watching the
if
house.
Yeah, if any, yes, and heard that claimed about that scream and all that.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if they did know each other. He's good with knives.
Yes.
And if they did know each other and they were hanging out, maybe BK was saying, hey, show me some stuff how you cut and do this and that with your knives.
He does fire breathing and shit too. That dude
Yeah. So
place.
He's a weird one, and I would I'd be monitoring him. Okay. Like I said, due to my various training and everything. Okay. Even
yeah, well, according to him, he had a K-bar in his ass. All right. We also had DNA Jeremy. We had Jake and Jack and the food truck guy. We had a lot going on. Snazzy, thank you for the super sticker that says there's 2 different issues happening right now in court with the Kohberger gag order. 1, the Goncalves attorney wants clarity so he can speak on behalf of the clients. Snazzy came in for the win. 2, the media coalition is fighting for more public information, less strict gag order. So what is Judge gonna do?
Well, I think he's trying to protect the case because as of right now, they don't have much, and he's not wanting that to get out there, I believe is what it is.
Or they possibly could have a lot more and they're not wanting that to be leaked.
Well, yeah, it could go either way.
Ann Taylor is also requesting the gag order stay in place.
But that Ian guy you talked about, I remember him, I think as an interview, he said he could see right into their house. And I thought that was odd that he said he seen in their house all the time. I don't know, like his house was across the street, so he had to have like a telescope or something to, I would assume, to be able to look into their house. I mean, it's just creepy.
And if they were hanging out with each other, he could have been like, hey, show me some of your moves with the knife.
Or maybe he was the other guy that Bryan kind of hinted at.
I've always thought that too, possibility with him.
Because he said something like, did y'all get the other guy? Or is the other guy arrested?
Well, I call the spot as far as at the frat house, okay? I call the spot Eagle's Nest. And with the scope, that Eagle's Nest, you can see right into the house, the front of the house.
So if they were associated with each other, they could have been peeking in that home. Okay, this is where this person stays. This is where this person stays. And blase, blase.
Yeah, the only thing it messed up was Ethan being in the house because he wasn't supposed to be there, I guess.
Yeah.
Well,
probably
there's only one bedroom that can't be seen from the front of the house. And that was Maddie's bedroom. And that's because the bathroom, that small bathroom, is at the front of the house, and Maddie's is on the other side. That's the only room that can't be seen from the front of the house.
Hey, the evil CJ said, I feel DoorDash was a decoy to get in, look into the ordered from Xana's account, but not the real Xana account, and used a gift cards to upload money.
That's what I was saying earlier. He could have had that ordered in to distract while he got in the back.
Well, and you said that earlier, but now the gift card situation, that makes sense because it don't leave a paper trail.
Yes.
So that really does make sense that, that if that was actually done, which it seems like it was, especially with the gift card, that was a ploy to make sure the doors were probably unlocked.
Yeah.
And
that way, if he didn't go in the door, if he didn't go through the sliding door, by that being unlocked, he could have went through the front door. Either way, it was a distraction for him to be able to get in that home.
And the Ian dude that watches inside their house all the time, where was he that night? Why wasn't he watching in their house that night? Which I know it's creepy, but why wasn't he watching in the house that night?
I think all the noise complaint calls were made by Bryan.
Yep. I agree with that.
100% do. Because nobody else had a noise complaint control call on Greek Row, excuse me, but they kept coming to their house. Everyone is blaring music. Why why were the police called to just that home? I think he was trying to measure the response time.
That's what I was about ready to say. I was about ready to say he was probably seeing how fast the cops would get there with the noise.
I've got a question. Has anybody gone through the 911 logs? The 911 logs are available for anybody to go through.
What day?
And each 911 log, okay.
What day?
You could request them all for that house, for that address.
Yeah, what day?
Well, no, it's for Idaho.
Not
for Moscow.
For what day?
No, they're saying like what days. Do you know like what days? The days that happen or leading up.
You can go any date. You can go back in history as far as on the 911 call.
I did a whole show about it, and that's the reason I keep saying that I believe Bushy is the one that was calling when he was in that crime lab in Pullman.
Yeah.
Well, but they
the 911 calls are GPS tracked
and recorded.
They're not going to give me the coordinates, and they're not going to give me the phone number.
And if I'm not mistaken, wasn't something about something messed up? Somebody messed up someplace where, gosh, something went offline or somebody messed something up at some place and it made everything go dark or not be able to work.
What, at the police station?
I'm not sure if it was a police station. Somewhere near there, something was messed up to where stuff couldn't be tracked or different stuff like that. If I'm not mistaken, I remember hearing that somewhere.
I don't know, but it seems like with the 911 calls on the police complaints, those are recorded, so they'd be able to figure out if it was the same voice.
I'm not talking about November 13th. I'm talking about the blotter from when the noise complaints were
when they started.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the reason I believe they came from him. No one's going to hear the 911 call. We all know that. Snazzy, thank you for the sticker.
The noise complaint started in August. There was August, September, October,
and we've
seen
the body.
There was a party at least 1 week before at the house.
There was a party the night before at the house.
Yeah, there was 100 and something people. There was 150 people. Am I right?
They have kids there all the time. Snazzy said, correction, both gag order and cameras will be addressed on the 9th. 27th is an evidentiary hearing. Brian E. tweeted correction. He goofed, not I, because we know that Snazzy doesn't goof, but thank you for the super sticker, my friend. Now we have dates to follow for sure. Well, I tell you what, today was a frustrating day because when somebody rolls their ass into the courthouse and refuses to plead guilty or innocent, we know we're on the hook for something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 100%. But he's absolutely allowed to do that. He doesn't have to say a word through this. He can just let the state do their job. And I know several people have been in here saying, well, the grand jury had enough, so that's enough. Well, no, the grand jury only gets the state side. The defense cannot say anything. They have no right. They cannot. And
The only time
I'm not a big
is
fan. I'm not a big fan of grand juries. I think there should be a preliminary hearing in every case, but I get why sometimes they don't.
I think they're scared on this case that it's rocky.
I stand with Brooks on that.
But yeah, I understand what you're saying, you know, on the grand jury. But do you
I think we're
think
going to learn a lot whenever the trial starts. I just feel like with that 51 terabytes that there's just so much that they have
More.
that we don't know about. So much.
And that's fine. And we'll talk about that then. We're talking about what we know right now. And all of these terabytes, we have absolutely no idea where they even came from. I mean, we're talking about one server room at NASA is 51 terabytes.
I
mean, if you really think all of that came from Bushy, that's crazy.
Now, I can explain a little bit about why so many terabytes is the phone records.
But there can't even be that many from one person. I don't care if he had 500 phones. It's not possible. I don't care if he had 600 computers. It's not possible. They've done a geo tracking and they're still sorting through it. So they've dumped that on the defense and they can be in trouble for that.
Well, that's going to take at least a year to go through all that, if not 2 years. Because, I mean, that's a ton of information they have to go through word by word or whatever it is they're looking at, audio, video, writing, you know, anything. They're gonna have to go through, listen to everything, watch everything, then read everything. I mean, that's gonna take them at least a year. So this case ain't gonna really move on until probably 2025, 2026, I believe.
Well,
because it's gonna take them a while.
October 2nd, and that's all we have to go on right now.
Yeah, I doubt that. I mean, how confident are you in that?
Oh God, no. No, no, I don't think so. They'll ask for a continuance after continuance after continuance.
Yeah.
I mean, they did subpoena GoPro, so he could have filmed all this. But they would have to turn that over to the defense and say, what do you want to do now? He filmed it.
Yeah. If he did that, he's done.
Yeah.
And then, then the case would move on in October. But like you said, they have to hand it over to the defense, and they both have to share the information they have. Now, it's up to...
We all know it's video, audio, pictures, text, emails. We know that. But 51 terabytes is unheard of.
That's crazy. Yeah.
That's insane.
That part makes no sense whatsoever to me. I'm not a big computer person, but that makes absolutely no sense to me. And if they're going to try to use any of that, that's going to take them at least a year to go through all that. I mean, I don't understand, like you said, I don't understand how somebody could get to the terabyte part of it. I know the gigabytes, but the terabytes, that just don't make sense.
All right. Well, I'm going to shut the show down. Let's have some respect, which all of you are. I'm not pointing anyone out except for Sarah, who was an asshole today, for having a discussion, all talking with each other, and our system of democracy, okay?